Alrighty, and we're on.
We're in.
My guest today is Ben Horwood. And how are you, Ben?
Johnny, I'm excited to be here. I'm very excited since I heard you had a podcast. I'm like, well, this is going to be great. So to be honest, I've jumped into something which I don't really know where we're going or what the actual, where the outcome of this podcast is going to go. So I'm excited to see where it takes us.
Yeah, actually, I there's usually one question that I usually ask before I hit the record button and we go live. And I usually ask people, is there anything that's off limits? Just so that I don't take the conversation somewhere and then it's just like awkward silence.
Let's just go as weird as we can go.
So I guess to give everybody a bit of background, like Ben and I, we've probably known each other. I think we would have met back in somewhere between maybe around 2009, 2010.
I reckon probably 2009 I think is the number.
Yep. And we were working together at Turner Motor Corporation. And, when I first met Ben, he was
Just no idea. No idea.
No, I wouldn't say that. Like Ben to me is like, when you think of the word dude, that's who I...
Oh, dude, like the Big Lebowski. Man, I am in. That's all I wanted was dude.
So I think of Ben as like one of those, those ultimate dudes.
And when I think of you, Johnny, I always thought like Johnny is going to succeed regardless because he's so driven. And like where I'd be cutting corners, like, yeah, you know what, I can just copy paste that. You were like, no, we're doing it this way. Like I was just like, wow, Johnny is on a mission. And you were a mentor. You and Brad, like I was always like, man, those guys are killing it.
Yeah.
How do I get there without doing the work?
But the thing that I really enjoy about Ben is like you get yourself into all sorts of shit.
I'm a yes man.
So okay, well how about we do this? Let's pull it back a bit, and so let's go to the start. So where'd you grow up?
All right, so I grew up. I did my first years till I was about probably 10 years old in Heathcote in New South Wales, Sydney, and then I moved in year 5 over to Grays Point, which is also in the Sutherland Shire, and that's pretty much it. High school there, the whole deal.
Yep. And then okay, so what do you remember about what would be your earliest memory?
I think my earliest memory, like I always have this conversation, like when do you actually start remembering things? Yeah. And like this often comes up when I'm giving, babies and stuff presents. I'm like, Mel, don't worry. He'll forget it. It's, first birthdays and funerals. They don't know if you're not there. But yeah, so look, really my first memories are probably in the bush back there in the national park, riding bikes through, like my dad buying old cars and us all being in the back sort of rallying around. They're probably my fondest memories of being a kid.
Yep. And
certainly just always outdoors and just, getting hurt and sort of being pretty loose, I guess, growing up. There not cotton wool, which I think, whether it's something that's new now or it's just what happens, it's we were pretty much outdoors kids.
Yep. And is there anything, anything negative in your memories that you don't really talk about, or or would you say that your childhood was pretty on point?
It was pretty on point. Like I don't really have any like drastic, like, oh, that's horrible. None of that stuff really ever. Like I think of stuff like I remember once there was a shooting in Heathcote, and that always stayed in my mind. But it turns out the guy I'm assuming he just wandered into the bush one day and he'd shot himself. But that always was like a haunting thing which sort of landed. There was a girl across the road who was kidnapped and taken to Greece, but it turns out that was her boyfriend who just come and took her away from the oppressive parents. But yeah, look, nothing really. Like as far as family stuff goes, it was. Man, it was pretty clean.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. And then, so when you're in, what about in primary school? Like, what did you have any fond memories of primary school?
I was, I always wanted to be a cool kid in high school, right? And well, probably a big one if you go back a bit further when I changed schools. Changing schools was probably a little bit of trauma there, and it's, I guess you hear of like military families who change schools every couple of years, and it probably becomes a bit natural how to do it. But for me, it wasn't. It was a big step to jump across to another school. Initially, the first year I think was pretty good. I was the new kid, and girls were sort of coming into the piece, and it was all sort of exciting. But whatever happened in year 6, I just turned out to be like the dirt bag of the school, and everyone hated me. It was pretty. That was like, wow. It was pretty. I don't know really what happened, but I still can't. I still ask my friends, and I'm like, what happened there? And like, oh, we all liked you. I'm like, nah, you didn't. And so that was like a weird one. But then moving into high school, I had to sort of establish out myself as like who I was, and it probably took quite a while to sort of. I guess I always knew who I was, but I needed other people to know who I was. And it probably took about year 10 before that sort of became, what I was searching for. And I guess, 10, 11, 12 was some of the best years of you could imagine.
So funny you should say that. Like, to think that you would have a good idea of who you were at, in high school. Like I don't think I really had a good idea who I was until much later in life. Like, is it more that would you say that you're a similar person to who you were then, and you're probably just further down the line, or would you say that you've had a lot of change, like you've changed your perception over who you thought you were?
This is probably going to sound really dumb, right? And it is, but at the same time, it's who I was, right?
Yeah.
I was a car guy always, right?
Yeah.
Like I love cars, like everything about it, like the freedom, the whole sort of idea that, like obviously race cars are cool, but cars give you so much. What it is, it's really freedom of what you can do. And I always used to think the second I get a car, then I can express exactly who I am, and people will understand who I am.
So even in year 7, 8,
in year
9,
7,
you were still all
year
that
5. That was it, right?
Okay.
It was always in me. And I'm not a typical car guy, right? I certainly do all that, the sort of car stuff, but I mean, that really is where my career and everything is sort of landed. But on the other side of it, like cars, I never go to car events. I don't like any of that sort of car-y stuff.
Really? Okay.
Not interested, but I'm very passionate about driving and all that side of things.
So okay, let's so what was your first experience driving a car? How old were you? Was it a go-kart?
A Morris 1100. My dad was teaching me, and I was in year 3.
Year 3?
Year 3, through the national park. He bought it for $50 off one of his friends, and they used to run on, I think, hydroelastic suspension, where they actually, whatever it is, it's like a fluid or a gas, whatever, that keep the thing like sort of at a height. My dad drained it all out to see how low it could go.
Yeah.
Then realised it's not just air that pumps it up. So the thing sat on the ground, and he was teaching me to drive in that.
Okay.
And that's my first memory of driving. It was probably...
And how did that go?
Terrible. Like probably the worst thing ever, but still...
Could you even reach the pedals and see over... Oh, I guess it's a Morris, right?
Yeah, like it was small. I don't really know. I remember we're driving a dirt road down there, and I remember exactly where we were. I can still drive past and go, oh, that's where I first drove a car. But that's where it was, and that I always knew, like my dad... he always sort of had jobs which were, never real high-paying stuff. He was like aluminium welder and all this sort of stuff. But what he did to make money on the side was buy old cars. He'd respray them. He'd, cut rust out of them. And that's how he sort of made the money and paid our houses off and that sort of stuff. So I was always very, like the entrepreneurial side of my dad in that way just really made me, see that, hang on, you can get something cheap and sell it for more and make money.
Yep.
And
it's
time and effort, right? And it's a skill set that I guess you develop over time as well. So that was probably where that side of it came from.
Yep.
And I don't know where I've gone now, Johnny.
Yeah, no. So that was your first experience driving a car.
Yeah.
And then, did you have other experiences with cars, before you actually got your license?
Naturally, like we were 15, 16, and we were just, older brothers' cars, and I had a little Ford Escort when I was 15, and sort of did like a half sort of restoration on it, and then that was, whenever the parents were out, I was in it on a dirt road in the national park, and I would rally it and bring it home, and so always like young, underage, not meant to be driving, but driving, learning all about it, getting yourself in some trouble and getting out of the trouble. Yeah. So certainly, never really, not the sort of family with the budget to have a go-karting team or anything like that. But
everything was like, you bought things and then you fixed them up, spend the time with it.
Exactly. And then you'd sort of step up to the next thing and all that sort of thing. But really so much of the car thing. Like I wasn't a kid who was playing PlayStation with car games. Like none of that. I just always, I'd read all the old magazines, and I was just very passionate about it.
Yeah. And, very hands-on too.
Yeah, just trying to make things work for sure.
Okay. So then, in after high school, what did you get into?
So high school. So the end of high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was pretty vague. My mum had actually found that Shannon's Insurance, the automotive sort of kind of cool cars, had a cadetship that went for 12 months. So I applied for that, and me and another guy called Chris Ariel actually both were given the opportunity for it. The job paid $18,700 a year. Was at St Leonard's. Yep. I was living back sort of down Cronulla way, and was driving a wide body 180SX, which just drunk so much fuel.
Turbo?
Big turbo, like turbo. External gate, the whole deal.
SR20 or CA?
Yeah, it was an SR22, but not like because it had a crank in it, just been like bored out so many times, I kept killing it. So so we were sort of driving that and on that ridiculous like nothing pay, and it was a bit of a, I still obviously have a lot of love for every company I've worked for, but it was certainly one which I went in, hey, this is all the stuff you're going to be doing, and it didn't really eventuate to be that. It was more like I ended up just being on the phones and
So you got sold the dream.
sold the dream. And realistically, I had to go through that. The other guy after 12 months dropped out.
Yep.
Somehow on that 18,700 a year pay packet, I ended up buying a 1-bedroom unit down at Woonona down in Wollongong.
Whoa, okay.
And so that was, I don't know how, like honestly,
You're just
I look
saving
back,
every dollar, basically.
I was living off, I think, 220 a week, but I was doing cars heavily on the side.
Okay, so you were still buying and selling.
Very heavily. So that was really funding my racing side and probably got the deposit together for the unit.
Yep.
Which, man, it wasn't much money to really get that together. But so that's kind of how that was coming together. And after the first 12 months, the other guy left. He went back to university. And I was sort of at a crossroads. I'd been for a couple of jobs there and like, look, you don't have a degree. You're not going to go anywhere. And I'm like, well, I have to get a degree. So left there and enrolled at University of Wollongong in a business degree.
Okay.
And that was probably, if you say, did your life ever change at one point? It was probably that time. You know, I met one of my best mates there and we ended up going to study over in Canada and, you know, we're 20 over in Canada. It was just wild, like absolutely incredible. Snowboarding. Actually had a bit of a break from cars over there. You know, didn't have our license, but we just lived an amazing life. Like it was really a good time.
Yeah.
And after 6 months, or 6 or probably 8 months, came back to Australia. Mel, my wife now, so that was, you know, we're going back probably 13, 14 years ago. It's actually our 2-year anniversary, wedding anniversary today. So,
and typical, you know, Ben style, and this would be typical my style as well, is like, you know, oh, it's your anniversary. Oh yeah, but I'll just organised with my mate to do this other thing.
Johnny, I went and picked up wheels at Campbelltown this morning too, so don't worry, nothing changes. And but yeah, university was great for me, and it was probably just to get back into learning. And I was a bit older, a bit more mature. I knew what I sort of wanted then, and I wanted to, you know, I knew I wasn't smart enough. I knew I didn't have enough of a worldview or, you know, really that exposure to that learning which you can have.
So, and okay, let's go back a step. So, you know, when you're working for Shannon's, is there any sort of key lesson that you think you learned there, or was the experience something that, you know, was there something that stood out in terms of that experience, or did it make you, was it something that, you know, you work there and you go, holy shit, I don't want to be stuck doing this the rest of my life?
I'm going to say the biggest learning there was that I was made for something more than that, you know, and that's the truth. I just sat there and I'm like, this isn't life. This isn't my life. And I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that, right? But it just wasn't, you know,
what you wanted to be doing.
It wasn't where I knew I had a skill set which just wasn't there.
Yeah.
You know, and like it was obvious getting through some of these sort of calls I was doing, I was getting so, you know, there was no passion there. I just wasn't into it at all. And look, I still have like one of my best mates as well. I met there as well, and we've stayed in contact the whole time. But yeah, it certainly was something where I knew it just wasn't for me. That life wasn't me.
Yep. Okay. And then so let's talk about this then. So you're at uni, you go to Canada. Was that your first experience overseas, or?
When I was younger, I'd done a bit of a world trip with my family. So we'd been to America, England, Hawaii, France, those kinds of things. In year 10, I went and studied over in Japan for a while as well.
Okay. Geez, you would have loved that as a car.
Yeah, that really was incredible. So that was and my Japanese teacher of all things, she really, it was really funny. I'm actually under an NDA at the moment with one thing, but there was this company in Japan, a high-end car automotive company who we've just recently done a deal with. And I was just thinking about it. I started doing Japanese at high school just in case there'd be business opportunities one day. And finally, at age 34, I actually used the Japanese I learned. And I was like, wow, thank you for that.
Wait, you can still remember the Japanese that you learned in high school?
I knew, and I could refresh it, and I was like, all right, I know what to say. So I actually got through it all right. Like I didn't, obviously they had a translator there as well, but I think for the whole, you know, making friends kind of thing, it certainly helped out for sure.
Okay. And so, hold on. There's a couple of things I want to break down there. So when you went on that exchange trip in year 10, did you manage to get yourself to some of the car scene there, or? I
did actually. A guy across the road from where I was living, he actually was an Australian who imported cars back to Australia. So he took me as a, you know, year 10, so however old you are there.
Probably like 15?
Yeah, probably 15. He took me to some areas where I probably shouldn't have gone, where it was like the seediest parts of Tokyo. Yep. But we went to an auction there and I saw the sort of stuff which I had dreamt about, and it was absolutely incredible. So that really, you know, I mean, my passion is in Japanese cars if you had to break it down, and it probably stems from all those experiences for sure.
Yep. And like, when you think about the car scene in Japan versus the car scene in Australia, like what, and also the car scene in America, because I know you've got plenty of experience there. What do you think are sort of like the key sort of differences in the mentality or?
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously the passion everywhere for automotive stays the same, but they just have a look. I mean, I don't really know how you, like everyone realistically, if you looked at the car scene, like the same guys are doing it. You know, they're doing it for a few things. One, to be a bit rebellious. One, because of the passion of, you know, a fast, nice car and that sort of pride in ownership and building something unique. And but if you had to look at it from, I guess Japan were the real, you know, probably the end of the 90s, early 2000s. They were the real pinnacle of motorsport for, you know, for Japanese cars. But I think since then, Australia really has come on board with so much technology. And, you know, I feel that Japan's probably, in the aftermarket world anyway, probably a little bit behind of the rest of the world at the moment. But
Really?
yeah. Like they really were. They started all the innovation, but I'd say Australia, we're kicking some pretty big goals at the moment.
Okay. And is that technology driven, or what do you think drives that?
Yeah, I'd say it's innovation and technology. So,
So willing to look at other ways to get things.
Yeah, certainly looking at other ways, other technologies to bring into it, and look whether Japan sort of got a few more constraints over there or whatever. It's you know, I feel it has slowed down a little bit over there, and they're probably adopting a bit more of our technology, whereas it used to be the other way around.
Yeah, we'd take whatever they.
Yeah,
got.
for sure.
Yep. Okay. And so, let's go back to that experience in Canada. So, you know, you have that year over there. You spend your time, snowboarding, bit of study?
Yeah, look, studying was we did our best to study over there. We passed everything we went into.
I can only assume your approach to study would have been the same as your approach to work at Toyota.
You know, exactly right. Tick the box. A P is a degree. That's kind of how I ran. But look, we had like great experiences. So, you know, where we lived, it was in Hamilton, Ontario. So the university was quite prestigious, actually. It's the Hamilton, I can't remember, McMaster University. And there was the De Groot Business School, which we went to. And they expected a lot from you.
Yeah.
You know, we did our best to sort of give them enough. And, you know, at the end of the day, like we really spent a lot of time with the sort of, you know, international students, which was great. We went on spring break down to Cancun and sort of had that wild experience. And I had a friend living down in New York who was studying down there. So we went and stayed with him in Manhattan. And then, you know, we actually got drunk one night and we wanted to book a surf trip. So we actually booked a trip to Puerto Rico.
Okay.
But, man, I had no idea where Puerto Rico was. I couldn't even spell Puerto. Probably still can't now. And anyway, we booked this trip at probably 2 a.m. and then went, oh, no, we've got to get to the airport in an hour. So we literally jumped on in a cab, went straight there, and we were pretty hungover. And I literally was just watching, you know, the little in-flight plane that shows you where you're going. And I was like, where are we going? and yeah, sure enough, Puerto Rico. It's somewhere in the Caribbean.
Oh, wow.
And so that was a pretty cool experience. But all those little ones, made a lot of good friends along the way. And ended up leaving there, heading over to Wales with the guy I was living with in Canada who had family over there. And stayed with his grandma one night. Then she kicked me out.
She kicked you out?
Yeah, she kicked me out. And
what did you do?
I didn't do anything. Like, I didn't do anything, but I think it was just a bit overwhelming having, you know, 2 guys there. So I knew of a friend of mine who was in London. Yep. So I got a bus down to London with a guitar and like a backpack, a backpack and my suitcase, which I'd been living in, you know. So we got down there, and just by chance, I had his phone number, but his phone was broken, so he could hear me, but I couldn't hear him. And I knew the suburb. I think it must have been MySpace. I'd seen like a bit of a suburb, so I caught a train to where that was in. I think I can't remember what it's called, like Shepherd's Bush, just somewhere in London. And I was just sitting there thinking, I don't really know the next step from here. I don't really have any money. And then I recognised this girl who turns out to be his girlfriend, but I'd met her back in Australia like a couple of years earlier.
Oh, wow.
And that's how it all happened. So I stayed at his and then had another wild experience on that side of the world. So
And at no point were you thinking, what the F am I doing? Like, were you not, you just didn't have any concerns?
Yeah, I certainly have concerns, but I almost enjoy getting myself in some situations to see how resourceful you need to be to get out of them.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, like certainly it was probably 4 or 5 in the afternoon. It was starting to get dark. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to have to come up with a plan B soon. But
what, you were just sitting in the park, just looking around going,
I was sitting at the train stop, and that's where I was like, you know what? I never have Red Bull, but this is a time where I'm going to need my brain. But it was just such a chance. This girl walked past and she locked eyes with me, and I'm like, we're on. And, and she's like, Ben? And I, that's who you are. And I didn't know she had any relationship to this guy, but they'd been dating and they're living there.
Yeah.
And she's like, this is, and so, you know, went back and it was just such a chance. Like, I feel that the best sort of experiences often come out of chance. So
Yeah,
you say yes to everything and just see where it ends up.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really positive way to view things.
Yeah.
So, all right. So after the UK,
Yeah.
then you came back, or
Came straight back. Came back, and I'm just trying to think what happened. I think I was sort of running a couple little business sort of things on the side.
Yeah. Hang on. Now I've got to ask you this. So where was the band in this?
The band didn't kick off till I was at just before Toyota, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So actually, it probably happened around this time.
Okay.
You know what? I think it did. So maybe was it, because that was a source of like reasonable income for a while. So one of the guys I'd gone to uni with, actually, I think I had another year to go to uni when I got back.
Okay.
So those guy Zach Wild, we started playing music together, and we got a couple like residency gigs, and so we were playing like every Sunday, I think every Saturday night.
Yep.
And normally just covers and things like that. And then the band sort of grew. One of my good mates, Mark, a drummer, came on board, Pat and Dom, and then we had a band and started writing originals. So
wow,
that was the music side was just incredible. Like even we ended up touring the whole of Asia for the best part of, I think it was 6 weeks too, and it was certainly not the whole of Asia, but Southeast Asia, and that was amazing. Like one of the best experiences.
Wait. Let's go back a step. Okay, so throughout all this, like, so when did you get into music?
Probably, look, I always sort of dabbled in guitar, and I played saxophone, I played bass when I was sort of a younger kid.
Yep. And was that because did your parents send you somewhere,
No,
or were you just doing it through school, or
through school? I think the bass was saxophone. I was actually I was getting taught.
lessons? Yep.
I was probably only year 2, year 3 for that stuff. I think Bill Clinton got me involved in that.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. He used to play the saxophone.
Okay.
Yeah, and then so did Monica. But
Kind of flute, mate.
yeah. Skin flute, weird. So that's kind of how that happened. And then so music, guitar, I hadn't ever really been taught how to play guitar, and I think that was more. I don't even think it was YouTube. I mean, YouTube probably was kicking back then. So maybe that's how I started sort of learning music, learning chords. And we just sort of, I guess, pushed together. And he was an incredible guitar player and a great singer. And then we sort of started, figuring out how to harmonize and learn different music. He was always lead, I was always rhythm, and still am a rhythm guitarist. But that's kind of how that came together. So it really grew out of, I guess, I had a vision as to what I'd like to do, and this was kind of a stepping stone to get there.
Yeah. So okay, so when it comes to harmony, like how did you learn that? Because that's not something that you can just watch a YouTube tutorial.
I think we literally just. I mean, I don't know. I think we did a lot and tried to figure out what sounded good. A lot of recording, listening back. One of my good friends, actually one of Mel's best friends, was a classically trained singer, so she did quite a bit of helped us along the way too.
Okay,
and that was that was great. I mean, look, to be honest, I think I'm one of those singers who gets away with things.
Yeah.
And as long as I have someone there backing me too, it all sounds good, right?
Yeah. So then you start this band.
Yeah.
How did that then develop? So if you're just practicing and playing covers.
Yeah.
Then how did you get that the residency gigs? Like.
So I think it was Mel's older sister got our first one at a bar called Sting Bar down in Cronulla. She was managing the bar.
Okay.
And so we did a bit of rehearsal, like, no drums, just how much you'll get paid. And it was like, great. And the first night, like, when you're sort of 21, 22, every single one of your friends wants to go out at night and get drunk. Yeah. So we were just bringing, 50, 100 people in, and it was like, wow, this is great. And it's sort of, that whole action creates action. And so we used to do pretty well with like, filling out venues.
Yeah.
And so we do that, and we used to play for, I think it was 3 hours on a Sunday night. Then we had, a bunch of other local gigs where we're doing, Fridays, we started doing weddings, things like that. And then from there, it's like, all right, well, let's start rock. But we always wanted to write our own stuff. It was just that the money was,
better than playing covers. Yeah.
And so we started writing our own stuff, recorded our first sort of, I guess you call it an EP with 4 songs on it. And one of the songs was actually pretty good. and so we used to sort of push it with that. And then we probably wrote, I think in our whole time, we probably have 18, 19, 20 songs, something like that.
Yep. And
then we started playing, there's an excellent venue, which is probably the most underrated venue there is, called Brass Monkey in Cronulla.
Okay.
And so we used to, we'd do a gig there every sort of couple of months, which was great. We used to always sell them out. And from that, then the booking agent there would go, hey, Pete Murray's playing tonight. Do you guys want to support him?
Oh,
and then that really opened us up to a whole bunch of people. And, we're playing basement gigs in the city and down at Wollongong. Actually, pretty much all over. We had barrel gigs and everything. So it was pretty fun, man. That was a really good thing. The Asia thing which is probably the funnest,
Yeah.
all time things I've done, was our drummer, a guy called Mark Meliarte. His dad was just an incredible, he still is like the treasurer of the UN. The guy's just got, does so much interesting stuff. Traveled to, I think, over 100 countries now as well.
Wow.
And so he was semi-retired at the time and went over there and just, spruiked us as this giant Australian band and got us booked in at everywhere from like, hard rock to these little summer bar on Gili Island. And it was just incredible. So we went over and we took a tour manager as well, and who was also a photographer. And we just went over with that and we just put it all together. And it was 2-3 gigs a night. It was just wild. Like, it was one of those sort of parties you see which just never stops. So lost my voice really hard at one stage. Had to cancel a couple of gigs. And they weren't too pleased about that. I think we got a lifetime ban from even going into the club after we cancelled. No. So but it was great. That was a great experience doing that stuff.
So where were you? Like, did you have places booked, or how were you finding places to stay?
Well, when we were playing the gigs, we typically would have, like, they were attached to hotels. Like Hard Rock obviously has their hotel chain that we were staying in, and then we'd go to this little, I can't remember what it's called, but like all the sort of kuta bars and stuff in Bali, we were just staying at like random little places. And the islands we'd go to usually have like a band residence out the back. So, and it was pretty bad. We're out there like drinking to like, 3 in the morning. We'd wake up and be like, oh, we got a gig to play in 5 hours, jump in the ocean, like freshen up. It was pretty, it was a real, like, some of the photos I look back at, I'm like, wow, that's just amazing. We kept that alive. Like, it was just incredible.
And how would you guys get around? Did you have a bus or?
We were just however you could, I remember dragging like, amps and everything like through the back streets of little towns, and it was on the back of moped. It was just whatever we could do. Like, it was just however we could make it happen. Because we did it on a big budget too. Like, we certainly weren't, getting, like the cool guys limos and stuff. We were like, jump in this tuk-tuk with 4 guitars. So,
and nobody tried to fleece you guys?
You know what? I'll tell you one funny story. So we went over there for EP, and we were like selling our EP just to like normally Australian like tourists and everything like that, while we're actually playing the gigs. But this one guy, and where was it? I can't actually remember where it was, but he bought our CD, and no joke, he had it in his store again, or fake versions of it. He had like 10 of them deep. I want to go back. I think I can find it. But he actually bootlegged our EP. I was like, dude, you're never going to sell one of these, but good effort. I loved it. It's so funny, man.
At least he paid for the initial copy, right?
Well, I don't know. I might have given it away. He had a very
what are you
cute
doing,
face.
Ben?
I know.
You gave it away, and then he's pirating your shit.
I'm just, if I ever find one of the pirated EPs of ours, man, I'll pay. I'll give him $1,000 for that thing and frame it. I mean, that was amazing, dude. Amazing.
Okay, and then so how did that come to an end after the tour, or what?
Yeah, so I was at Toyota at the time, and it's actually a bit of a Toyota story. Yeah. I do remember who it was. I don't know if I should say his name, but maybe I should. I don't know.
Who is it? I don't know.
Whatever, we'll just say it. So so we'd gone out for it was probably 6 months before the end of 2011 or 2012. Yeah. And I was working in Fleet at the moment with just a bunch of good guys. I really like that team. Was just it was just awesome. Like those early when I first started with you guys, it was just such a great team. Like and having Vin as well. Vin is like all time. Like,
well, that's the thing that when people I think all of us in that team would look back on that team and go, hey, that was a pretty cool time in our lives.
Very good.
There's only so many experiences that you can have in a workplace where you'd go and say, there are some pretty good people here. Yeah. And
very clever people too. Like it was really a great team.
And but the culture of it, I think, was really positive as well. Yeah. Like it wasn't really like nobody was really knifing each other. It was more very positive. Everybody was trying to help each other.
Yeah. It was great. And I mean, look, still like as a brand Toyota, I'm like, man, it's incredible. Yeah. It's, it was great.
I always laugh because I think, we were operating on passion. Like,
there was no money. There was no money, and I'll tell you that.
Yeah, like people would think that hey, the money's got to be good, but we were like,
dude.
I'll share this story, and we can talk about a few of the Toyota stories. So, back when Ben and I, were in that team, we were basically what we call district sales managers. So it's kind of like an area manager for the company, and so our responsibility is we all had a group of dealers that we'd be looking after, and at one point, through our team, the big thing was back then was selling or wholesaling locally manufactured product. So back then, Toyota was producing, Toyota Camrys and Orions at the plant, in Altona, and our responsibility was to obviously pump as many locally manufactured products.
Stack them deep, sell them cheap.
into the market to ensure that there was sufficient skin in the game for the dealers to make sure that they were selling their share of locally manufactured product, and so back then, like I think one of the big things that we always used to focus on was white Camry Altises, and because that's the base level entry model. And I think back then, we probably had them on some driveway program, and it was probably like $27,990 or $29,990 for a Camry Altise. And I think at that time, you and I would have been looking after some rural dealers. Mm-hmm. So, rural being, I think you were doing the South Run.
Yeah, yeah.
I had the North Run, so basically anywhere from the Hunter up to Tamworth or Coffs Harbour on that side. And so the big thing was, trying to encourage, these country dealers to take locally manufactured product. And so, we like, and this is purely for pride, where we just sort of, we'd have the list on the wall and we'd say, yep, wholesale that,
yep.
And so we'd have this day in the office where everybody was just trying to pump white Camry Altises into the dealers. And then it became from there, like, when I say operating on pride, like we didn't get paid anything for it. Like there was no bonus for us. But it became an issue of pride because you'd notice that your dealer would have reported it or sold it. And then you'd be calling them saying, hey, you got to take another one. And these poor dealers, and now I'm on the opposite end where I am a dealer. And I'm like, yeah, I know what you're trying to do. Yeah. But the story that I will always remember, I don't know if you remember this one, but we had two orange Orion, I think they were Prodigies. So Prodigy was the middle grade because Prasara was the top of the line. And one of my dealers, he was kind enough to take, both of them. I managed to wholesale in both of them, but he cursed me from that day forward because it took him probably a year to get rid of both of them. So
wow, man, like I tell you, one of probably the best success I've had. Like I was always pretty tight with some of my dealers, especially Rod Luff.
Yep.
Down in Yass, right?
Yep.
Yass Toyota, like we're still good mates. And when the tsunami hit, and all of a sudden, like every car just disappeared. The only things that were available, even like I think Camry and Orion were slowed down. But I somehow had found these reserves of Hilux, SR5s or Hiluxes, which were just sitting at a lot. And I called him and said, hey, look, I've got these things. And right now you're going to make the best part of 10 grand a car on it. But what I want in return is that first Toyota 86 that lands on your lot is mine. This is how much I'm paying for it. And yes, that's how I got the first 86 that came through the into New South Wales.
Yeah, so very entrepreneurial of you.
Oh, wow, just
some of the deals that.
Oh man, like it was but it was great times, man. It really was fun.
Yeah, and we had I think when I say we had a good team, I always remember we did this So one of our presentations that we had to do to the dealer network, and we organised, remember the rap video?
Oh man!
And we basically got all the DSM team to basically contribute a few lines, and Phil Sue put together a whole slideshow, and it was like a bit of a thank you, and then a bit of fun, and then there was a picture of us in the back of at the time I had the blue Hilux.
Oh man, the manual, which would never sell to anyone.
Which would never sell. Yeah, so it was a manual petrol Hilux, and the reason why I ordered it in the first place was because I just wanted a fun car.
Yeah.
And it was manual, and the SR5 in a rear-wheel drive came standard with the limited slip, and that
was Drift Central, Tokyo Drift Johnny.
But yeah, there was some good times there.
Man, but I think where I left Toyota was some of the guys I really looked up to, including you, Brad, Mark, Booth. You guys had all pretty much left.
Gone, yeah.
And I was there going, man, I don't really see where to go from here. And I knew it was pretty much, you hit a ceiling with how much you're going to earn there. Yeah. And I didn't really have aspirations to move up there either. It wasn't something which I wanted.
Yeah.
And my wife Mel, she had wanted to move to LA for a while, and she wanted to go over there, and she's an actress. So I was like, I want to do it, but I've got a career back here, and this is probably another significant time in my life, I guess. We had Dealer of the Year in the city somewhere, and I'd actually played a gig just before, and I'd forgotten to take my work shoes, so I changed it of my playing a band, playing a gig, and then I had to go into a suit to get to Dealer of the Year.
Yep.
But I'd forgotten my shoes, so we're driving around the city, at probably 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, going into every sort of St. Vincent's de Paul just to find whatever.
Oh, St. Vincent's de Paul.
That's it, man.
Not even like the trying to get into a Maya or a DJ.
I don't know. I think, look, we weren't getting paid much back then. That's all I can put it down to, right? And anyway, I've rocked up to this place. I'm like, you know, I thought I looked pretty neat. I do my normal sort of, you know, half beard kind of thing. And we're there, and, you know, it was a great night. Like, it was always Twitter put on amazing nights. And, but yeah, it was Tony Pepper, actually. He came up to me and had a dig at me and said, you didn't even shave your beard for this? It's a disgrace, or something. Like, had a proper go at me with Mel standing next to me.
Yep.
And I'm out there working my ass off for, like, you know, away for 2 weeks of every year doing it, earning chicken feed. And it was that night I just went, you know what, Mel? I'm going to quit. We're going to move to America. And we went to Newtown Pub, and I remember it so well. We just sat there and we're like, all right, well, let's do it. Let's make it happen.
Yep. And so, okay, hang on. There's two things. So the first thing is, let's go back to how did you? So you were saying about exiting the band, like well, when the band thing sort of came to a close, and that's how we got on the topic of Toyota. So what happened with that?
The band thing was all good. This is pretty much the band when I was going to move back over, or when I was moving overseas.
Yep.
It was like, you know, a couple of the guys were going on. Like, one of the guys was going to go to a medical degree, and I knew time was going to get a bit more difficult. And a lot of the steam,
sort of
like, I mean, you know, I still play with some of the guys, but it's not as serious really anymore.
Yep.
And so I think with me sort of saying, hey, I'm going to go overseas, that pretty much finalised it. And we're actually going to have a reunion show kick off soon. So,
no way.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
well, you guys have heard it first here.
Yeah. And so that's pretty much, that was the end of the band there. And then
what was the name of the band again?
We called Alloway.
Alloway, that's right. I remember
ALLOWAY. My mum still has a alloway.com sticker on the back of her car. And yeah, so that was the end of the band, and
actually, I'm just remembering one of your biggest fans, KK.
Oh man, KK, she was at every show, you know, like KK, leave your top on. But now she was the most. Still sends me messages like, Ben, I've got Alloway in the car. I'm like, good on you, KK.
Yeah. So KK was a lady that we worked with at Toyota. Gorgeous person.
She saved my ass on the you know how I did as little as possible? Yeah. She would make the slack up every single time.
But you were her favourite, and she was open about it. She would say, Benny, you're my favourite.
I know.
Every single time.
Oh, she'd hate some of you. She hated Brad.
well,
it was, that was really funny though, man. Like, and so, she was, she certainly was our, number one fan of the band.
Yep.
It's hilarious. And sorry, go.
So, okay. When you made that decision, okay, but let's go to the US. Mel, what was Mel doing at the time?
Mel was, I think Mel was probably just finishing uni. She was finishing her first degree, which I think was Bachelor of Journalism or something. But she just finished her degree and wasn't really doing anything crazy. Like, she was just pretty much just auditioning every single day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where she was at.
Okay. So was that because she had her stint on Home and Away?
Yeah.
Yeah. So was that before or after that?
That would have been after that.
Okay.
And she was studying with a guy, James Mitchell, who's still like, he's one of mine and her best friends who lives over in LA now. He was like on Home and Away forever, but she was actually studying under him as an acting sort of coach. Okay. And he'd moved to LA, so it was like, it'd be good to go and see, like, all that sort of stuff. That's how it was all sort of coming together.
Okay. So then when you left to go to LA, how long were you thinking to go for?
Yeah, so a bit of context on that is while I was at Toyota, I'd bought a house in Gymea, and when I bought that, I also sold my house down the unit down the coast, and that was sort of sitting as an offset account. So I had a bit of a buffer of money sitting there, so I wasn't overly stressed on finances. Mel had gotten a visa in America, so she was going to be all right. She could work over there, so we'd have some money. So was
that like for an acting thing? Or?
Yeah, like I think it was I can't actually remember the visa, but it had something to do with her just finishing a degree as well.
Okay, yep.
And I'd met someone who could offer a job over there at Zimmerman, like women's sort of clothing in Beverly Hills, like a real ritzy sort of place.
Yep.
And so we flew over there, and like it's pretty intimidating going overseas. And so we had no real plan of how long we'd be there. Pretty much it was just, let's just do it and see what happens.
Yep.
And so I flew into San Fran. Had a mate over there who I'd met while I was traveling through Asia at some point, and we stayed with him a few nights, and they sort of helped us go get a car. We got this big Chevy, I think it was a Chev Silverado, this monster old 350 Chev thing. We did a bit of a traveling around, and then I still remember when we got to Hollywood, it was just probably the most intimidating thing ever. Getting into LA and just driving down that sort of main, Sunset Boulevard, thinking, we've got to get an apartment, we've got to get a life together, we've got electricity, we've got all this stuff to do, and I don't know what the hell to do. I don't know anyone here. I don't know anything about the place.
Yeah. Everything's foreign, right?
Everything's foreign. Like, it's just, I couldn't imagine. I think of some like migrants, and coming to a country we can't speak the language must just be so incredible. You understand why clusters happen.
Because they need support. You
just need it. There's no other way to do it.
Yep.
And so luckily, we found an apartment, and it was just the money was just going out so quick. Like, hey, we've got this bond, first and last, and this and that. And I was going down to like LA, water and power, all these sort of, like, I was learning as I went, had to go to the DMV, register the car to get my Californian driver's license, all these things so quickly. And then Mel started working, and Johnny, in between all this, I got scammed on a Mustang, and then I had what I thought the Mexican cartel coming after me, trying to kill me. So we moved out of our apartment and moved to Santa Monica for a week because we thought someone was going to try and kill us.
Okay, hang on.
Johnny, I don't even know. This is like
Let's go back. You can't just throw this out there.
Johnny, when you ask, like, is there anything off? Well, this is probably there's one story which I'm like, I'll tell you what happened. So it's probably a month into living there. I'd met a couple guys, like had a bit of a friendship sort of thing happening. And anyway, there was on Craigslist, a 67 Mustang came up for sale. And it was probably 20 minutes from Hollywood. I'd driven there. The guy didn't answer his phone. I'm like, where is he? Anyway, he's called me back. He's like, hey, mate. I'd sort of told everyone at the same time. A bit of a fight broke out because everyone was trying to buy it. I'm just over it. First person to buy it, just done. Those guys, cops came. It's just like, it's an absolute mess. And I was like, you know what? I'll spend $1,000. If I win on this thing, I'm going to make 20 grand. If I lose $1,000, so be it. Stupidly went to Western Union, transferred $1,000 in this guy's account. Yep, Ben, cool, come pick the car up Monday this time. I was like, calling him. No one's answering the phone, right? I still remember when I went to Western Union, a Mexican woman, his name was Alan Alifa. And she was like, oh, Alifa means black sheep of the family. And I'm like, oh, this sounds positive. And anyway, it turns out it was a scam. I found out and I was like, man, what am I going to do about this? So I call and I was like, mate, I'm at the cops. You better like come clean because, transfer me back this $1,000 or I'm just going to go and, drop you and everything I know at the cop station. Anyway, he's just called me, but he had like music on in the background of what I can only assume is like a recording of some like crazy like cartel sort of scene out of a movie. It's like, yo, completo, I'm gonna come and kill you. And I'm like, oh, fuck. I was like, oh, fuck.
What have you done?
And I was like, and he's like sending me like screenshots of like buildings. And I was just so panicked. I was like, oh my God, he knows where I live. So I was like, oh my God. And it just turned into this terrifying thing. I told Mel, I picked her up from work. I'm like, Mel, this has gone down. It's
Wait, how did he know where you live?
I don't think he did, right? But okay, I was just
he's just sending you pictures of buildings and you're going, shit, that's where I live.
Johnny, it's so true, right? And I'm freaking out and I'm like, Mel, so we went down to Santa Monica and we're staying in a place down there. And I was like, and just by chance, the first night we're there at about 4 a.m, someone comes banging on the door, some drunk dude. And I thought it was him. Oh, sorry, Johnny, I've got sorry, the cartel's still calling me. And so yeah, I've got this knife at the door and I'm like, Mel, open it, then jump back. And there's a dude just rushes in. I'm like, whoa. And I'm like, oh my God, he's just like a buddy 20-year-old, just drunk, buddy idiot. I'm like, no, get out. He's like, bro, I'm so sorry. And I was like, shit, my anxiety was just to a whole nother level. I'd gone and seen a mate who I'd sort of met in Australia loosely and said like, hey, this is the situation. He goes, you're going to have to go to the consulate and this is what's going to have to happen. Somewhere in between all this, the guy was calling me every couple of hours like with this abuse. And I was like, we're either going to move back home or we're going to have to sort this stuff out. I got to a click. I just went, clicked. I'm like, I'm going to kill him. I was like, no. I go, mate, I'm going to be here at this time. Come and meet me. I'm going to be standing on the corner. You better be here. I knew where he lived at that stage. I tracked down everything, paid some reverse thing. I knew where he lived. I knew his parents' names. I knew everything. And I'd hit him with everything. This is where you live. This is your parent. Like, I went full on to psychopath. And I was like, I'm not under the covers anymore. I'm coming for you, right? And I was just standing on the corner of Poinsettia and Sunset with like a full on like, this is crazy, like with knives and all sorts of shit.
Yeah, but you're in America, man. They have guns.
And anyway, 10 minutes later, after he was meant to meet me, he calls me going, Ben, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I've gone on with this. I've got a gambling problem. I've got this. It's not me. Like, fully just bitching out on me, man. Like, just, I'm so sorry I went through all this. Like, I've got a problem. And I was just like, I felt like I'd won, lost my $1,000, but it was just like, I don't know, man. That was the end of it. Like, that's the end of it.
So you just let it sit after that. There's
it just
$1,000. He was doing you a favor then.
He was. I go, you know what? I'll send you another 1,000. Go away. But it just got to a level where, you know, everyone's got a breaking point, and it's just like I couldn't live with that fear anymore. I was like, nah, it's got to come to a head now.
Yeah.
And it was just like luckily it turned out that way. But I kind of was pretty like I'd seen photos of him. I sort of knew everything about him at this stage. I'm like, nah, this guy's not going to show. And so yeah, that's how that was our sort of welcome to America.
Hang on. So you've seen photos of him. Can you describe? Did he look like a gang guy, or what did he look like?
No, total opposite. He looked like just a little Mexican dude who worked in IT.
Okay.
You know, you looked at his house, had a Civic out the front, like just not a Civic from Gran Torino or anything. I'm talking like a little.
Yeah. You're talking EG.
No, not even EG.
Not even EG.
No, probably like a newer one. I don't even know where they go after EP, whatever. But something which certainly wasn't intimidating. It was like, man, this guy's struggling to bloody make ends meet. So I'm like, no, we're all good. We're all good.
Okay.
But yeah, certainly, that was a real experience, man. One I don't tell many people about because it was pretty distressing at the time.
Yeah,
and Mel went through it all as well. And I'm like, yeah, sorry, Mel.
I was thinking I was going to score this bargain.
Oh, 100%. You know, I was like, man, if I lose $1,000, so be it. Almost lost my life. So, no, moral of the story is I don't really know. Don't buy cars off Craigslist, right? So yeah, that was that. And so anyway, while we were there, I'd applied for my green card through the green card lottery over there.
Yeah. So how does that work?
I'm not really sure of the numbers, but around 20,000 people get a green card a year from like various countries.
Okay.
You've got to reach certain criteria with like, you know, tick the box with I've done this education, this. Australia, I don't know the allocation numbers. I'm just guessing, but I think it's about 700 a year get given a green card. And so while we're living there, sure enough, I got an email through saying, hey, you've been selected for a green card.
Wow.
You might not hear anything for 12 months, which I didn't hear anything for 12 months. So that was an interesting sort of waiting period. Was like we couldn't stay there that long, and you know Mel was having a great time at Zimmerman. Like she was meeting all like the cool famous people and stuff, serving Ariana Grande, giving away stuff to people who she thought was famous, but turns out it wasn't that person who was meant to get the free stuff. A lot of weird. Wow. Mel's hilarious, and we both did stand up comedy over there as well. You know, it was a real interesting time. It was great, you know.
So okay, hang on. Let's before we get into the stand up comedy. So was she doing still doing auditions and things like that?
Yeah. So she was doing the audition stuff over there, and the agent thing was becoming a little bit of a problem because her visa wouldn't allow her to do some of the stuff that she needed to.
Okay.
And while we're there as well, we ended up traveling through Central America for the best part of 2 months as well.
Okay.
So, you know, we took it as a bit of a, hey, we're over here, let's just do everything we can.
Yeah.
And also after I'd sort of had that thing that, you know, you're going to get your green card, it was like, we're going to have to go home for a while before we come back. So let's not really, you know, lock things in here just yet.
Yep.
And so that's kind of what happened there. We did a lot of like, you know, local sort of adventuring and stuff around LA, but we're still very much, you know, the newbies there. The friendships hadn't really developed past, you know, you know, that sort of thing. So, so yeah, I think we moved back out of LA in probably, I don't know, maybe July, back to Australia. And we moved back into the house I had. We did a bit of renovation, made it all nice. And then somewhere along the line there, I've got a job at an IT company, which was destined to fail at the start. Like I took the job knowing that I was, like, second my green card came through, I was going to head back to America. But they sort of sold the dream that this could actually be not a bad thing as well. Probably 3 weeks in, I went, hang on, there's no one who manages here. The product doesn't actually work. What the hell am I doing here?
Okay, so I think I remember you calling me about this.
And
you were like, Johnny, guess what? You know, and I'm like, what? And he goes, I'm potentially lined up this job, and they're going to pay me like this 6-figure amount.
Yeah, it was
to do what? And you're like, I don't know yet.
Johnny, there were 8 people around the country who worked for this company, and we would all have conference calls every day to each other going, I don't know when we, like, it was pretty much as I got hired, they were all talking about when they're going to get fired because the company, which it had been bought literally just before I'd started, and they were trying to move it into other countries. I think that Asia was the focus, but Australia wasn't. So I don't know if they had some contractual obligation to keep it in Australia for a period of time or what, but it was just unbelievable. Unbelievable, man. Like, I was getting paid and I was working from home, and there literally was nothing to do.
Yeah.
And it was comic. Everyone was just laughing. Like, I was just like, what the hell is going on? I didn't understand it. And the guy who eventually became the sort of manager there, you know, I felt so bad for him because he'd come from a really like high-end background in some bank, and he was just like, guys, I don't know what to tell you. Like, just keep doing what you're doing. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything. So I just, kept my mouth shut and just used that to buy another place out the front of the house I was at. And so that was just, it was unusual to say the least. Nothing really major happened around that sort of period of time. A bunch of drifting and a few cars and all that sort of stuff as usual. And then the green card came through and was like, yep, it's go time back to America.
Okay. So, So what I wanted to ask you, so when you were traveling through Central America, what was that like? So you spent two months traveling through Central America, just you and Mel?
Me and Mel, a guy from school who I hadn't seen for about 3 years, he's a gem sourcer. So he finds gems all around the world and wholesales them back in Sydney. And he's not really he's not on Facebook very often, right? But he said, hey, I have a house in a place called Bastamentos in very northern sort of Panama, which looks over Costa Rica. Yep. You guys should come. And I wrote back, yes, I will come and stay there. Like, when do you want to stay? And he just wrote back, there's a flight in on, let's say 3 o'clock on the 15th of whatever, April. I'll meet you at the airport. And I was like, all right, cool. Went to write back confirmations, everything. He never wrote back at all. And so Mel and I had flown down to Panama. And so we got to Panama, Panama City. And it was a bit of a bitch of a flight to get to because we didn't fly direct. We flew Texas, then somewhere else. Then we got to Panama. Yep. And so we leave the airport and we got this white high ace van. And this is another weird story, actually. And we'd been watching a lot of Banged Up Abroad, all that sort of stuff. We're driving along in this van, and we just pull off the highway and driving. It's pitch black, and I'm like, what the hell? Anyway, I see a police car parked on the right of the road up ahead, and they wave to this guy as if they're super casual, like, hey, mate. And he's just waved back, and I'm like, oh, man, I'm about to get kidnapped, and the cops are in on it. And then there's a white van that's parked there, identical to the van we're in, right? And he pins at full throttle and just comes up behind this van and jumps on the brakes right behind it. And I'm like, all right, we're going to get pulled out of the car. So Mel and I are freaking the back. I've leant over and I've grabbed his seatbelt from around him, and I was going to try and choke him out. So, Johnny, I'm over him, and then we've stopped, and I've looked to the left, and I'm like, oh, this is the hostel. We're literally out the front of the hostel, and he's just playing around with the guy in front, right? He's just like, I'm coming up fast. But I thought we were about to get kidnapped. So I've got my hands around his seatbelt, around him, and I haven't pulled it yet. And he turns around what the fuck's going on? And I'm like, thanks, man. And I was like, what the fuck, dude? I was just so panicked. And Mel's in the back just freaking. And we get out. I'm like, cool, man. Dude, it was, I can't explain. Words don't explain the anxiety that went along with that situation. No, the paranoia, really. And, dude, I had my hand on the top bit where it comes out of the sort of,
and you were just ready to just.
I had no real. I don't know what to do from here, and but it was terrifying, man. And then he turned out to be just a cool guy, taxi driver, and next day we flew to this place called Bastamentos. So it was a tiny little plane, and as we're landing, I'm like, wow, we are near no population. We're in the middle of nowhere. Okay. Yep. And we land. I'm just gonna look, if he's not here, I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know what the hell we're going to do. So it's one of those airports where you land and you walk along the runway for, a couple hundred meters, and I open it up and I see him, and I'm like, man, you are here. Yeah. And so that was great. We took 2 little boats to get to this island, had an amazing house there, had a great time, and, spent the best part of probably 3 weeks at this house and just every day just cruising. Yep. And so then we headed up to a place called Key Corker off Belize, which is probably one of the all-time most beautiful places I've ever been to. And then, Guatemala and I can't remember, El Salvador, those kinds of things. So it was a really awesome trip, a real good sort of backpacking adventure.
And so language-wise, was that a barrier? Or?
A lot of it is English. Like Belize is actually part of the Commonwealth, so they all speak. Most of them are Canadians there as well.
Oh, okay.
And Belize City is actually one of the most dangerous cities in the world. I found out later. And but
For what reason? Just
I think that's
murders
kind of where the drugs all sort of go through to get into America.
So cartel activity, yeah.
Very cartel-y. And actually our tour guide had said one of the major gangs had taken over a TV studio and said that pretty much we now run the city. You all have to adhere to what we're doing. And so our coach sort of tour driver had told us that he got 13 elite guys, police officers and ex-Marine, and not Marines, whatever the military is, to go out and hunt them all down and kill them all. And he just openly was telling us how they were just catching them and just killing them all. And I was like, wow. So it's pretty wild, man.
Yeah, definitely a different way of life, right?
But everyone had said, look, most dangerous place ever. Whether we stayed away from it, like people were getting sort of mugged along the way, but somehow we avoided all that and got through it. But
did you just look like you didn't have any money, or
that's typically the way I roll.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I think we're just a little bit smarter than I don't know. We're just a little bit smarter than the average. I think who just cruises out.
But you're carrying backpacks, right? Like, you look like backpackers.
Yeah, but we didn't really do it like that. Like we still stayed in nice-ish hotels as well. Like we weren't fully plebbing it. I think that's kind of where we had security in a lot of the hotels and stuff.
Yeah.
It was all right, man. We didn't really go off the beaten path too hard. And we were with this guy who had killed all the cartel guys anyway. So it's like, this guy might keep us safe.
Yep.
So that was So that was Central America. Like just a really good, just meeting cool people and stuff like that.
Yep. So then, where did the foray into? So after Central America, you came back to the States.
Yeah.
Why did you foray into trying to do stand-up comedy? Like, how did that happen?
Why did that happen? I think Mel, I wasn't working over there. I was just adventuring. I actually bought a little Toyota Sprinter over there as well, left-hand drive with a Honda S2000 motor. Yeah. So I bought that and I was racing.
So which year?
So the Sprinter was a 83.
83. So proper 86.
Yep. Yeah. So a boot back one.
Yep.
A Torino front. And then, little S2000
also sedan motor. Version.
Sedan, yeah.
Yep. And it had a F20.
F20, yeah. Yep. So we lived in a pretty nice place in Hollywood, like after it all, and I was under the car next to Bentleys and Rolls Royces and stuff, pulling the whole rear end out to switch over an LSD diff while Mel was at work, and I knowing I had to go pick her up at 4:00, otherwise all hell would break loose, and so it was I was a proper just getting shit done over there, but we had some days where I was like really bored, like I'd ventured around, I became obsessed with like the Charles Manson murders. And if anyone ever comes there with me, I can take you to absolutely every place where everything went down there. That was just, I don't know why I fixated so much about it, but it's such an interesting part of Hollywood history.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had these days free and nights free.
So whose workshop were you working in?
I was working in my garage sorry, when I say my garage, we lived in an apartment building which had open car spots, and I was just doing it in one car spot. It was.
Yeah, so hang on. So where did you get all the tools from?
I bought them all.
Okay, so you did buy tools.
Yeah, I bought all my tools and everything just over there. Your local sort of Repco style sort of place. And but it was pretty nuts, man. It was pretty full on. And I actually sent that car back home with me as well. So all the tools just came back with me. And so that was So the stand up. This guy Adam Banhart, he was from the LA Community College. So I just signed up there and said, look, I'll go along to this thing. And this was probably one of the weirdest things I've ever rocked up to. So downtown LA, I did the course before Mel did. And I've just rocked up and pulled up in the place, and I walk in with all these misfits. And it turns out, and like some people were nice and normal and actually wrote on some of the big sort of TV shows over there. And then other people were certainly doing it as a form of therapy, where they had either been sexually abused or had drug issues or this, that, all these issues.
And they're trying to make light of it.
And they are, but it's turned out that some of it got pretty heavy. Like a girl got up there and spoke about how she was raped, and she's just telling the story, like probably for the first time in her life, and she's like crying but laughing through it. And I didn't know how to take it. It was just like, whoa, like, this is pretty full on.
Yep.
And so at the end, he's like, hey, is that all right? And she goes, I feel a lot better now. And I'm like, oh, wow. And that was one of.
But wasn't the purpose to do stand up?
You had like
or was it just to
you went up there to tell a funny story, right?
Okay. So that's what the purpose was.
And no one did. Like I went up there with like, oh, this is some hilarious shit. But then everyone else would go up there and say this real heavy stuff. And her joke about getting raped, she got pulled out of a Camaro convertible in Chicago or something. And she goes, I used to be fat back then, and he was just between my legs and he didn't even realize. And And we're all like, man, this is some fucked up shit. Like, but that's kind of the humor, I guess, she found to get over it or whatever.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys, like with major drug issues and everything, and domestic issues, it was unbelievable. Like some of the stuff, like, man,
It's heavy.
it was really heavy.
Yep.
And so it's certainly, I think, a lot of probably comics in general have had a lot of trauma in their life, and that's kind of the way they deal with it. They
Process
probably
it
have,
and deal with it. Yep.
probably have some good human experience as well, living through some of that stuff.
Yep.
But it was, I was certainly, me and probably two other guys were like hang on, we consider ourselves as semi-normal and not really bruised. And so we're just trying to make it work. And then from there, they booked us at the, they booked us at the Hollywood Comedy Store, like super famous, like Sunset Boulevard. And it was amazing, man. I loved it. Like the video is still on YouTube. If you go Ben Horwood comedy, you'll find it, which is probably super embarrassing. And I shouldn't have said that. But from that, I got a booking agent. All of a sudden, I had a booking agent in LA.
Wow.
So we're getting booked all around. And the foolish thing I did, I kept trying to come up with new material every time I do a set, whereas I should have just refined what
polished,
I had. And that was probably a pretty stupid thing to do.
Yep.
And sometimes you'd be so outclassed, you'd get put in, with people who you recognize them from TV, and you're like, oh, this guy, he's off Seinfeld, and all of a sudden it's like, my stuff's not funny. and
So okay, let's talk about that. So did you have a time when you just absolutely bombed and you were just like,
yeah. I think it's called the Milk Club or something like that. It's in I think it's in Silver Lake, and I'd written a whole new set for it because I was like, you know what, I want to try and just be a bit different and sort of push things around a bit. And I sort of went on with like real weird stuff that, I'm only having a sister. I learned all the Little Mermaid songs, and like I was singing Little Mermaid songs and everything, and I was getting nothing back from the crowd. And like, you need a bit of, like, you got to hit it with confidence when you ever do stand up. But when you're getting nothing back and you're just like, whoa, this isn't working, like all of a sudden you just get shocked. And it was a bomb, man. It was a bomb set, and I called it short. Just I'm like, you know what? It's not going to get better. I'm going to do them a favor and me a favor by getting rid of this awkward shit, and I'm going to roll out. So I,
what did you say? Did you tell him you were cutting it short, or did you just walk off?
I watched the footage back, and I'm like, you know what? It's not. People are laughing, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't as bad as I thought. And had I probably, had a couple little things been changed, it probably would have been a pretty good set. But it wasn't. My confidence was shot. The second your confidence gets shot, you're just second guessing everything.
You're just focused on that. Yeah.
And so I just pretty much skipped the whole middle of my set and just went to my last line, which I knew was funny and it was a decent sign off. And I was just like, oh man, the cringe in it. I walked off and I'm like, you know what? I can't even stay and watch the rest of these guys. I'm out of here. Like, and it was funny, man. I laugh at myself all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's probably the way to get through stuff, and the way to probably have confidence to do stuff that's over your head is just to be able to go, oh, man, that was hilariously shit. And so that was I did another 2 gigs after that, and I went back to my original set and it was all right, you know.
So did you have a process for when you put your original set together? Was it or how did you put it together?
Some of them are just literal stories that have happened in my life. Like I skipped over one that happened down in Cancun, which is just ridiculous. And you're probably going to have to watch that YouTube link to actually see what it's all about. But there's a lot of funny stuff that just naturally happens. My wife, Mel, is probably the most awkward person I've ever met in my life, which makes me be just as awkward.
Yep.
And so we get in situations sometimes it's like, oh man, how do we get out of this? And it's funny, man. Like it's just real life stories. I'm not good at writing jokes at all. But I'm good at telling stories in a way that
you're just drawing on experience.
Yeah, you certainly you highlight the stuff that's like, man, that's next level. So,
yep.
But yeah, absolutely zero process. And typically I write it 5 minutes before I walk on. So I know roughly what I'm going to do. And then 5 minutes beforehand, I'm like, I'm going to change it all to this.
Yep.
So.
And so you're not really following a script. You're just sort of winging it.
Yeah, winging it with an idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's loose sort of structure.
Yeah. I've got a few dot points I want to hit, and how it gets there. And typically I add things, and that's just kind of how it comes through. So that was my that was it, man. That was my American stand-up career.
Did you ever get heckled?
No, I didn't. But I had a lot of like ammunition if someone did heckle me. Like I had probably, and like these weren't mine, by the way. I'd sort of just looked on YouTube and seen how to deal with a heckler.
Yep.
And I had like 4 different type of hecklers they'll hit you with, and pretty much come back for each of them. So I was just like, you know what, I half want one because I'll hit them with a one line, it'll shut them up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, man. It's a lot of pressure. Like I see people get heckled sometimes, and it doesn't stop, and I'm like, oh, that's a hard one to come back from. Like again, the confidence rock is what kills you, man.
Yeah.
If someone yells out, "You suck," it's pretty hard to go, no, I'm good, man. Listen, my next joke will be funnier. Like
You
it's
suck
hard.
more.
Yeah, like it's really hard. Like
Yeah,
you need
get
to
into a sledging match.
Yeah, and it's not funny normally. Like
Yeah.
unless you're really witty,
Yeah.
it's just like, oh
You gotta be
man.
able to shut it down and continue
Yeah.
with what you want to carry on. Yep.
I don't know, man. It's a tough gig for sure.
Okay. All right. So now let's go back forward again. So you came back. You had the bullshit job in IT,
Yeah.
where you were getting paid to do nothing.
Yeah.
And I know you were getting paid to do nothing because
Yep.
you'd call me and you'd say,
Yep.
"Hey, does this sound like a good deal on this car?"
Oh yeah, 100%. Hustling cars like no man's business.
And then so you got your green card again, or green card. I should say, not
It
again,
came
but
through finally.
Came through. So what was the plan when you went back the second time? Did you have an idea of what you wanted to do, or what were you thinking you were going to do?
Well, I didn't have an idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And but I knew that once I got there, I'd figure it out. And luckily, had bought a couple places which were giving me at this stage like a reasonable income to be over there. I could probably survive just without making anything.
Yep.
And so we got over there, and actually no, we didn't get over there. I'd sort of spread the word around through a lot of the performance automotive sort of companies that, you know, hey, I'm going over. If anyone's looking for anything, let me know. And one of the companies actually came through and said, yeah, look, I'm certainly keen to, I want to, you know, we want to move over there. Like you kind of, your personality aligns with what we're trying to do.
Yep.
That was an ECU company.
Yep.
And so I went over with them, and it was like, had a very, you know, Toyota style salary to kick things off. And it was, I got over there, had a crash course in how everything works, how everything sort of comes together. And I got over there, and I'm very ambitious especially with an Australian company, I'm very ambitious to grow it over in America. And when you sort of have confidence in a product, it's a good thing to sort of run out with. So we're over there, and I was going really hard, like every single day. We moved back to the same apartment block we'd been in.
Yep. So what was your role? Were you?
So I guess you'd probably call me a business development manager.
Okay, so you're trying to develop affiliate networks so that you can obviously sell the product into them.
Exactly right.
And let those garages or shops on-sell it to the end user.
Yeah, and at the same time sort of building like a bit of a marketing presence over in the US as well. So they had an office over in Kentucky. Mm-hmm. So I'd flown over to Kentucky and sort of met the guys, and like a really good bunch of guys over there. And like, you know, been skilled up in a few bits and pieces. Had my like Infiniti G35 back in LA, which I had a computer in, a bunch of stuff slammed, welded diff, the whole deal. And so we started kicking that off, and it was good, man, like a lot of travel in it. But then an opportunity came up on a Discovery TV show called Street Outlaws. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a drag racing guy by any stretch, right?
Yep.
But I also appreciate that there's a lot of money in drag racing, and that's kind of where you need to be if you want to be in America.
Yep.
So I'd flown, I think I'd actually met them. They were filming in California, met all the guys, and, you know, said, hey, look, this is our product, this is what we can do. They were all carburetor guys back then too, and like going to EFI was a big thing.
Big deal, yeah.
And so that was probably like one of the best experiences ever, because we ended up like spending a ton of time in Oklahoma where the show's typically filmed.
Yep.
And then traveling all through, you know, pretty much that whole Midwest region, following the show and everything else, and trying to get the big names on board. So we're doing a lot of sponsorship stuff, but it was very difficult because these guys, once they sort of hit a wall with, hang on, like this isn't working the way I want to do it, fuck it, rip it off the car, it's shit, chuck in the bin. And trying to manage that to, like, first as an education part of it, but also, you know, what you're trying. Like, I mean, it really is sort of an education thing through and through. Like, it works. You tell it to do something, it's going to do it.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of, that was a very difficult period to make sure that all went well and was executed right, so that there wasn't going to be any fallout that, hey, this actually isn't what we're after.
Yeah. So you had to train these guys to learn how the product works, how the software works, and how to get the potential out of it, because they're probably, you know, operating with things that are a bit more simple.
Exactly right. Yep. And so that was so during this time was probably where the biggest thing for me happened. I met a guy called Ben Strader from a company called EFI University. They're in Lake Havasu, Arizona. Mm-hmm. And so he's a real big name, right? He's like he actually won, I think, 2018 Engine Builder of the Year. He's just pretty much a god in EFI tuning and engine building. Yep. And, you know, consults to NASCAR, but he Pro Stock, Pro Mod, all these kinds of really big deals. And I was a newbie sort of coming in. I was super intimidated by him. And anyway, the guy was good, and his name was Ben as well. I'm like, oh, that's a start. And so we sort of kicked off a bit of a friendship. And I said, hey, look, do you want to come with me over to Oklahoma? We'll put on a training session. You can run it and sort of make it work that way. And we'd stuffed up, and we only had one room for us, and we were meant to have two. And so we had this one room, and
It's chock full of guys.
yeah. And so, sorry, this is for the bedroom, right?
And,
And,
okay. So okay,
exactly. That's
Yeah.
how it came down. And
Yeah.
anyway, it turns out our humours are very closely aligned. So we're just cracking up laughing the whole time. And from there, we sort of went, hey, look, you know, your business is a little bit stale. Do you want to like kick it off in this new light? Like, I want to come on board. Like, I'd love to sort of do something. And so we ended up negotiating a bit of another business that we're going to kick off. And it was probably the best decision I've ever made. And it really just opened so many doors from there, and just so much opportunity came from it, and just the friendship as well. Like, he's certainly, you know, top 3 friends I have. He's just incredible, and his whole family too. So, you know, Mel and I are often over there, and we work closely and look for different opportunities, and we're always sort of out there doing things together. And it feels like having a business partner that's driven, motivated, and also incredibly intelligent is the best thing. You know, like it's brilliant. So, you know, we spend a lot of time doing that, and we're actually about to do a big tour through Australia in a Falcon Ute, which we'll touch on later. But so that's kind of how that came about, and we spent a bunch of time. He had a private plane over there that he was flying us in and out of, like Burbank Airport back to Arizona, and you know, we just had some really awesome experiences together, some amazing adventures. So
Yeah.
certainly been a really good part of life.
Yeah. Wow. So then, so the stuff that you're doing with, are you still doing stuff with EFI University?
Yeah. So we're really sort of pushing it along hard at the moment. That's a real big focus.
Yeah. And so is that predominantly in the American market, or is it a global thing?
It's global now, so the online training is what we've really sort of steered the business towards. We still a lot of the like hands-on classes back, you know, in Arizona and in satellite sort of courses around the US.
Yep.
We did them, well, we still do them in Australia every now and again also, but the online stuff is probably for the majority of people out there. Like, if you're a car enthusiast, if you're a workshop, if you're, you know, really, if you've been in the game for 40 years, you still need to learn this stuff. It's fundamentals, which so many people have just missed. And we have like a lot of turbo stuff and, you know, advanced engine stuff. So it really, there's a lot of value in those online courses. But
Yeah. And who is it targeted towards?
it's targeted really from anyone from, you know, your motoring enthusiasts the whole way through to your hardcore racers at the highest level of motorsports as well. Anyone, like even for your little Mazda MX-5, like if you want to go and hear what your tuner says, you need to sort of have that fundamental knowledge, so they're not just, you know, spinning lies to you and all that sort of stuff. So it's, you know, that old thing, you know, you see on Facebook, oh, my car, it's doing this. Oh, check your TPS. It's like, come on, man. Like, don't ask it. Don't have that stupid bloody answers. So I just want to educate everyone to a level where it's like acceptable knowledge, you know. And but the school itself is really advanced. It goes into, you know, a full engine building program, which isn't just like a blueprinting. It's engine design, head development, all those kinds of things. And we have spintrons there and CNC machine hones. It's pretty incredible.
Okay. So then, all right, well, I want to talk to you about, let's talk a bit about the cars, because you've got some pretty cool cars.
Man, I'll run with it all day long.
Yeah. So the things that stand out for me is obviously, so you had so hang on, did you say you brought back the one from the States?
I did.
As well. So you've got 286.
Yeah, the one I bought back, I knew the driveline was perfect in it, so I actually pulled the engine and box out of that, and that's in my car.
Yep.
The left-hand drive car I sold, and it's been right-hand drive converted somewhere in the country.
Okay.
But my A86, the F21, it's like a baby. I actually had a dream last night it got stolen, so I've got to go and check on that thing tonight.
Okay.
But yeah, I've owned probably for coming up in 15 years, I guess.
Yep.
So it's got a built F20C in it. It's got a Delorto drive-by-wire throttle bodies, which has been converted from a BMW 1000RR, PDM in it. It's got an M-Tron KV8 ECU. It's got everything you could possibly do to a Sprinter. Like, it's amazing. Like, it's an incredible thing. Revs to 10,000 RPM. It's
naturally aspirated.
Yeah. Slow, but doesn't matter. It's all about the sound.
It's fun, right?
100%. It's so good to drive. Still makes probably, you know, 190 horsepower at the tyres, which is heaps.
For a light car like that as well.
Weighs 1,020. So.
Yeah. And I think you got the long champs on it?
No, it's got Watanabes now. So it's got a set of 15 by 9s. It's got more money in brake calipers than any other car I've found. So it's got a Willwoods on the front. Yep. And it's got 2 on each wheel. So we've got 4 Willwoods on the rear, 4 piston each for the hydraulic handbrake and the foot brake. So
wow.
It's yeah, I got addicted to braking in the car. But
Yep.
man, I love it. It's all engineered. It's just a beautiful little street car, which you know you can still drive to the shops if you want to.
Yep.
It's,
And are you using that for drift or anything at the moment, or what do you?
that thing's more an R&D car at the moment. It's got a bunch of electronics hanging off the side of it that we're playing with. Did a bunch of track days in it late last year. We're actually filming a motorsport sort of how-to series at the moment as well with that car.
Yep.
Partnered with Marulan Racetrack down in near Goulburn there.
Golden, yep.
And so that's been pretty fun. And then the other car I have is my S14 Silvia. So my S14, a lot of people hate it because I put a LS V8 into it. But it's something, I guess, I lived in America for that long, that LS thing is always in
huge.
me. We train a lot on that LS platform as well because it's just such a affordable
It's a
engine.
staple.
It is, right? It's an amazing thing. It's an easy way to get power. It's reliable power. So that's got a LS1 in it at the moment. I'm about to switch over to a Stroker 383 in it. Like CNC ported heads. Again, it's got an M-Tron KV8 drive-by-wire, cruise control, a bunch of real weird features and functions in it.
Yep.
And it's just an animal. Like the thing makes 500 horsepower and spins any gear. It's just a really cool thing. So it's more a circuit sort of setup in it.
Yep.
But that's a car I drive to Noosa and back with, and
it's reliable.
It's bulletproof. The thing, it's still got aircon. Everything's got electric power steering.
You did that one well because I remember when I drove it, I was like,
oh, that was rough. That was still early days
rough,
when you drove it. Like it's refined now. Like it's and still backseat folds down, slide my surfboard in. It's a real good streeter, and so yeah, that one's had a fair bit of development time. I actually got caught in that bloody giant tornado sort of thing that hit our suburb a while ago.
Okay.
And as the trees were falling, I was tucked under the roll cage going, please don't hit my car. Like, we've got a bit of hail, but it's all right, man. Let's live to see another day.
That's it. Get the dent topped out and away you go.
Yeah, so that's that. And, like day-to-day cars, there's a Prius in there. There's an Audi A4 there. It's but the fun thing which I've actually kicked off right now is the Falcon RTV Barra.
Yeah, so let's talk about this.
Yeah, so this is the one which... So over in America right now, that Barra engine, so if you're not familiar with it, it's a
six-cylinder out of a
six-cylinder
Ford Falcon.
4-litre. So it's a twin cam.
BA onwards, wasn't it?
BA onwards, I think, through to FG. And they're an amazing thing, like a Toyota 2J, but with, another litre of capacity.
Come on. You can't say it's like a Toyota 2J.
I can't, but I will say, numbers-wise, on that factory block, guys are doing 2,500 horsepower on a factory cast block. So... that's pretty impressive. And the things just, truly they have capacity so they can breathe. So what we've done, we're going to bring that engine building program into EFI University. And we thought, how are we going to kick it off? Well, let's actually do an Australian tour through the outback, off-road, not staying on tarmac, in a Ford Falcon Ute.
Okay, so is this thing... Hang on, but isn't it only rear-wheel drive?
It is only rear-wheel drive, Johnny. So this is what we've done, okay? I can't ever do things easy. They have to be unique and weird. So I was actually surfing with a guy, a random dude who I just started having a chat with. And I'm like, this is looking what we're going to do. And he goes, I've got a Ford Falcon RTV, which is like a BA Falcon. And it's got a factory 4-inch lift. And it has a factory Dana air locker diff.
Yep.
So it has traction. It's got a bunch of travel. So... I was driving back. I took the S14 down the coast at Christmas time, and on the drive back up, it was all smoky. Obviously, the fires that went through soon after that.
Yep.
And I got a phone call from him going, "Hey, if you still want to buy that ute, it's available. I'm picking up another car tomorrow." So I literally picked that up on, must have been Boxing Day, and the next morning at 5 a.m. I drove it straight up to Noosa. So I took this thing up, no idea how it was going to perform, no idea what it'd be like, but it was absolutely incredible. So we ended up doing 2,500 Ks in it.
Hang on. So why were you going to Noosa?
Mel's older sister lives up there. She lives at Gold Coast, but I wanted to drive the beaches of Noosa, and then I wanted to camp on the way down.
And how did she take it when you go, hey, we're going to ride up in this?
Mel's incredibly good for that. She's always down for adventure. Like some of the shit cars I've made her come to buy or like travel adventure in, she's just like, okay, that sounds fun. Let's do it. And the ute was bloody good. We just had a swag in the back of it. And it was just an incredible trip. Like it was one of those trips where you just switch off from everything. We came back down, stayed in Yamba, and we were just like surfing. Pretty much when the sun came up, the sun came down. It was just an amazing, rallying it around on the beach, sliding it around through the dirt. And when we got back, I was like, man, this thing's great. So I called my business partner Ben over in America. I'm like, hey, look, let's actually make this a serious trip. Let's get everyone on board. Start steering our own podcast, The Adventures of Ben Squared. Over to it, and we'll start promoting it through our YouTube channel as well on EFI University page. And so it was like, all right, let's make this happen.
Yep.
So we sort of reached out to a bunch of the sort of people we work with, and so far it's looked like it's going to get a supercharger kit on it. It's already got some 31-inch tires. It's got a lift kit. Shockworks down in Melbourne have built a custom setup for it, and so we are going to go. So we've got a support car that's going to be following us. It's actually taking a film guy as well.
Yep.
And we're going to be turning this into a video a night, which we're going to release over probably 2-3 months, something like that. But we are going to try and do a podcast every night or every second night out of it as well, to sort of say the experiences we're having, how things are going, what went right, what went bad. And I'm certain, Johnny, it's going to come back with some serious panel damage, and I'm sure we'll be doing a gearbox out there as well. So it's amazing how much the thing flexes with the rear sway bar off. So it'll be a really exciting thing, and we're trying to incorporate things as well where we'll be tracking the car. So if you're local to the area, come out with your 4-wheel drive, come spend the night with us, tell some stories, play around your cars. It should be a fun little adventure, man.
Yep. And so have you worked out, where you're going to travel, or how you're going to travel, or is it just literally just get in the car and just start driving?
So again, it's like how I do stand up. There's like probably 5 places we do need to hit along the way, and then the rest is just we'll see what happens. And so that's kind of how we'll probably play it out, which is going to be terrifying, but hopefully it works out. And we want to see some really weird stuff, right? We actually, one of the trips is we're just simply driving around Bathurst. But then from there, there's an old Holden dealership which hasn't been touched since 1971.
Yep.
And it's really off the beaten path. We're going to go check that out. And then that's where we start to go to, Lightning Ridge, Broken Hill, Uluru.
There's some great roads.
Man, we're going to be, and like wherever it says 4-wheel drive only, we must go down that road. So we've got a winch on it. We've got a bunch of stuff. We shouldn't get in too much trouble, but the
4-wheel drive only in the 2-wheel drive.
That's it, Johnny. You know the saying: if in doubt, power out. So it's wide open, and if it's got a supercharger screaming, it's going to be encouraging, right?
So you're going to have to obviously have a lot of fuel in that support vehicle.
Yeah. Well, that's one issue. So yeah, we're going to have to get the fuel side. I mean, there's so much stuff when you start going really far off road. It's like, we're going to be 2 days away from contact, so we really need to. We need to be like, I'm a bit lazy in that field, so we need.
You also see, this is the thing that I think people listening to this would probably admire in terms of listening to you, is that you have this really great sort of fuck it, let's just see where it goes,
just wing it.
Yeah,
It's the only way to do it, I think. You got to just be in it. You just got to because I worry about opportunity going past. And there's been so many times where I'm like, man, I should have taken more and jumped in harder. And, one of the things for me, which has always been, I guess, maybe a hindrance almost, is I don't like my face being associated with things. I get nervous with it. It makes me, I don't know. I don't like it. I like sort of sitting back. You feel that
it sort of locks you into something? Or?
Possibly that's it. And maybe it's a commitment thing, but it's something which I'm learning that, more and more, I need to sort of just put my face out there and go, hey, this is what I do. This is who I am. Yeah. These are the companies I represent.
Yeah. Everybody struggles. I think a lot of people have that, and I had that for the longest time as well, where you compartmentalize all the different parts of the things that you do.
100%.
And so, with certain people, you only talk about certain things. With other people, it might be work related. You just talk about work, and you don't really, bring it all together for your own self. To feel that you're comfortable,
Yeah, and there's a bit of conflict at times too, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, often...
people feel that peer pressure to say, oh, at work I can't talk about this because then people are going to think that I'm not doing work, I'm doing something else.
Yeah, right? And that's probably it. I mean, I'll tell you probably the hardest thing that's probably come out of it, like in the electronic side. So, I'm affiliated with a company called Mtron back in Australia, like a really high-end sort of engine management company. And... it's like, I absolutely love it, right? It's like on the forefront of innovation. Like everything that comes out of it is just unbelievable.
Yep.
And so it's great. And pushing that around you can literally just say, hey, put this in your car. The ECU is not going to be your limitation. You will be the limitation of this car, or the mechanical side of the componentry you're using. Because this ECU has more power than everything put together. But it's still a very sort of cliquey, I guess, industry of with your sort of engine management companies who you're sort of aligned to. Whereas I want to be friends of everyone, right? I want to see everyone succeed. The market's huge. Yeah. Everyone take a share. I'm never going to sort of, bag someone's thing or anything. And I think, that's a difficult one for me because whereas we all left Toyota, guys went to Land Rover, you went to Beamer, Merc, all these, we've all moved around through automotive. Yeah. But we'll always help each other to go, hey, look, we're down this track. Like maybe you could try this and implement it, and that might help you over here.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't really exist. I kind of, it was a bit more of a shock to me that it was like, hey, look, you're out.
It's very combative as opposed to collaborative.
Yeah, and that's not how my personality works. And that was a bit of a shock, and I didn't like that. And like some good friendships I had, I felt got sort of tarnished out of that as well. And so it made me sort of doubt, like, hang on, like, have I done the right thing? But at the end of the day, I'm going to back myself, and you need to do what's right for you. And as long as you don't do anything dirty, then you're safe.
Yeah, you're not stealing from one to give to another.
No,
it's
and
more just you want everybody to be successful. But if you're have an affiliation with one company, you got to push the barrow.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And so that's kind of how that works. So look, it's interesting to see, like, the friendships are slowly starting to come out, that people realizing I'm not out there just trying to steal everyone's thing.
Yeah,
it's and look, a lot with all this stuff, right? It's all relationship based too, right? Same with exactly what you do. Like, you have a good relationship with someone, that's kind of, they're going to come to you always.
Yep.
And so anyway, that's kind of how that is, and that's kind of the journey I'm in at the moment. And to be honest, it's incredibly exciting, like opening up all these new doors and growing a company pretty much from its infancy.
Yep.
Actually, next week we head over to America for a giant sort of motorsport event called King of the Hammers in the Californian desert.
Okay.
So that's going to be a really exciting thing for us. So we'll go do that and a bunch of little workshops over there, or doing the off-road stuff. So it's man, I love doing it all. Like it's great.
So okay, let's go back to American Ben.
Mm-hmm.
How the hell did you rope him into wanting to come to Australia and drive through the sticks?
See, and like he's always up for adventure, right? Like he's ex-military. He owned he's like in some Hall of Fame for pilots as well. He's got a crazy little Mustang drag car. He's got so much interesting stuff. He's a genius. You talk to him, you're like, I sound dumb again. But I think for him, like it's he knows that we've got to do this. It's one of those things, like a rite of passage. We need to tick this box and go and belt Australia out. I've never seen the Outback, Johnny. Like I've never done it. I wish when I was at Toyota, I said, hey, I need to.
What do you mean? Yeah, when we were on DSMs on the road.
Yeah.
Come on, you surely.
I went to Griffiths, right? Griffiths was my last dealer, but I saw a bunch of cows and sheep, but I never saw that red dirt, and I want to see that red dirt.
Oh, well, on my run, because I had the North run, there's a few different runs that you can do, and so usually if you go from like Tamworth to Coffs Harbour, you go through Dorrigo Pass. It's quite scenic, it's really, really nice.
Yeah.
The one that I thought was really surprising, and I only did this drive maybe twice, but it was from Tamworth to Taree.
Yeah.
And that was the drive. That was the drive where I was like, "What have I done?"
Wow.
I ended up in some places, and the road very quickly turned into dirt road.
Yeah.
And what was I driving? I was either in the manual Corolla.
Still pretty fun.
Or I might have had the TRD Orion at the time. I can't remember which car I had at the time.
Brilliant.
Actually, it was the TRD Orion, because I remember having plenty of fun with that.
Yep.
And I think I did the run twice. So I did it once in the Orion, and I did it once in the Corolla.
Awesome.
And the Corolla was fun because I had the manual live-ins and then the Orion was fun for a different reason because it had plenty of power. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I'm going through these places, and I'm like, I don't know if this is meant to be the right way that you're supposed to go, because when you look on the map or whatever, the map said, you can go follow this path or whatever, or follow this road, and I'm now suddenly on dirt road, and it was dirt road for like
forever
50 k's plus, and then I went through past these gates, and I'm like, oh shit, I think I'm in somebody's property now.
Yeah, right.
But it's just that's where the road goes. It goes through their property, and you go over the metal grates or whatever, and then there's cows at the one on the one side, and then you travel another 10 k's, and you're in like the rainforest.
Wow,
that's honestly how it felt. Like it felt like I was in the rainforest.
That's awesome.
And you don't see many cars, but when I did see a car, it was a 4-wheel drive.
Yeah,
and here I am in a Corolla.
Yeah.
Front-wheel
what
drive,
the hell are you doing?
Or an Orion, and I remember the first time I did it would have been in the Corolla. And I remember when I got to Taree, my shirt was red.
Oh, you got hemmed with the dust.
Dust, because
through the aircon.
Wow. So through the air in the car, I had the windows down at some point, but when it was dusty, I put the windows up.
Yeah, for sure.
But because I didn't have the air on recirculate,
Wow.
when I got to Taree, I got out of the car and I was looking at my shirt, and I had this white business shirt on, and there was like lines of, like, you could see
Seat
like
belt,
a very
yeah,
clear line where I was hit with the dust and where there was no dust.
No way.
And then I was like, oh shit, what have I done?
Yeah.
And then I was looking through the car, and the car was like hammered with dust.
Yeah.
But when I was doing that trip, like, you slow down and you actually want to go slow to have a look around, because you're seeing, man, like, there's like weird sort of, waterfalls and all sorts of crazy things that you see. And I did go past some guys doing some roadworks, and they gave me this funny look as I'm driving through this little Corolla.
100%.
This Asian dude in a manual Corolla going through the middle of nowhere. But there's some absolutely fantastic roads.
Man,
like,
it's awesome, eh? Like, Australia is just such an amazing country.
Yeah.
I always forget, and like, this is the thing. Second I go back overseas, and look, likely this year we'll be back in America again for a long period, and I just keep going, wow, Australia is just such a beautiful country.
Yeah.
It's we have so much to do. Like, America's great, right? Like, I've got certainly a giant love for America, but probably more so for the opportunity it has, as opposed to the country itself. And it's man, I don't know. I just know whenever I'm in Australia, and like, that's why I'm so pumped about this trip as well, is that we're going to be able to go out there and showcase it. I just bought a new drone. So I'm going to be sending that drone everywhere. But we can add it, and Johnny, there's no way in the world that car of mine's going to drive in a straight line. We're going to be sliding everywhere. Like, it's going to be chaos. Like, it'll be pure chaos. So that's probably why it'll break a few times. But it's going to be amazing.
Are you going to keep the air locker in it, or you actually have to weld it?
So what happens with it is the air locker, it's actually a vacuum actuated air locker. So with, let's say, testing, when you go full throttle, it sort of loses that intake vacuum, and so it unbinds and goes back to a single spinner. So second you supercharge or turbocharge it, the vacuum doesn't exist either. So what I need to do is put a vacuum pump on it. And just
keep it permanently locked?
Well, permanently locked when I need it. Like, obviously, tarmac stuff, I don't want to load the axles up. So we'll
so put a switch in it. Just
have a switch on it with some sort of light to go, hey, look, I'm working or not. And because that's really crucial. If that thing lets go, if we break an axle, it's a day and a diff, but if we were to break an axle or something, or a single wheel out there, we're screwed. Yeah. Right? We are literally screwed.
So are you guys gonna stock up on some spares, or?
Yeah, so that's the thing. I'd love to put a transmission in the back, and also just a whole nother rear end we can just quick switch out if it does go bad. I don't know. Again, you're going to be carrying another 200 kilos of weight in the thing. It's just that, what's the best way to do it? If we, it's a transmission I'm worried about. A diff, we can always sort of, make something work to get us out of trouble, but...
Just need a welder.
That's exactly right. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. So whatever, we'll probably just see. And I mean, look, a bunch of companies have been coming on board. So I'm hoping like a local wrecker goes, hey, look, I've got all these parts. Do you want them? Take them. Drop them back if you don't use them. So that's kind of the plan on it, man.
And then what about food?
I'm a pescatarian. Yeah. So straight away,
what are you going to do?
Yeah. So I'm in the middle of the desert.
I guess you can gnaw on the vegetables.
Yeah, that's the theory, right? No, I don't really know. So we'll have a fridge in there. I'm probably just going to, every stop we get, just load it up with whatever I can get in there. I need my coffee to operate in the morning. Otherwise, I just am grumpy. So we'll figure out something in that front too. Maybe even just like the cold cans, like that Boss coffee that just came out from Japan. Or just like stack that to the brim. Yeah, it's amazing, man. And so probably something along those lines. I'm unorganized, so it'll be like, hey, shit, we need to eat tonight. So I don't, and I'm also a bit of a germ freak, I've just realized as well. So it's going to be great, man. I don't know. I'll be covered in dust. Like, I've got to go to bed. How am I going to do this? So
pack a fishing rod.
Yeah, pretty much.
Have to do something like that.
I have to do something like that.
Yep.
And I don't know. The scary part of this whole thing is people keep ringing me up, going, "Hey, just want you to know that people die out there." And it's like, yeah, because they're unprepared. Unlike me. And then I think about it, I'm like, oh, we're screwed. Yeah. So
it's funny. When I did the podcast with my dad, he was telling me, and I remember this trip. Yeah. We had this. When they went to the hatchback version of the Corolla Seeker, so not the AE82 shape. I think it would have been AE92.
Yeah.
And it was the fastback version.
Oh, they're a cool little car.
And we had that sort of silvery green kind of
color. Oh, beautiful! And loves the clear peels off them.
Yeah. And so we did this trip to, I don't know, Darwin or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And my dad was telling the story about how we got pulled over by the police or whatever. They're just doing checks or whatever. And then they sort of gave him this look like, you guys are crazy to be using this vehicle to do this trip. Because I remember at one of the stops, and I was quite young, so I can't remember how old I was when we did this trip, but I do remember the car literally being caked with locusts
Wow.
We went through some locust storm, and
Yeah.
the front of the car was just like locusts everywhere. And
Yeah, man, that's an ambitious trip.
well, my parents being migrants, like they didn't know any better.
Yeah, it's all right.
Like,
Where did they come from?
So my dad grew up in Singapore.
Yeah.
My mum grew up in Malaysia.
All right, cool.
And then I for some reason always thought they had met in Taiwan while they were studying, but my dad actually has never been to Taiwan.
There you go.
They met when they were studying in New Zealand, and then from New
No
Zealand.
way.
Yeah.
Wow, man, that's a
across.
real amazing trip. All right, well, there you go.
Yeah, so it's just but yeah, that's funny. I think you're going to see some really great things, and I think people should definitely follow and subscribe.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be great.
Yep.
It's going to be weird, and I do feel that other Ben, his humor's very good, and for whatever reason, we just seem to work well together.
Yeah.
So
We'll have to get him on here.
we will, man. We
Yeah.
will. He's very like. If you want to go into tech, he will go into tech. You can give him an equation which is like 400 numbers long, and you'll just go, oh yeah, that's 772 to the power of 3. It's unbelievable. The guy's a genius. So it'll be fun, man. It'll be good. We'll probably try and do some sort of send-off thing. We'll probably do it from Cronulla, like we're leaving the coast. And it's going to be weird, man. It's going to be great. And I'm pumped that we're going to be getting a lot of Australian sort of companies out there as well as we do this. So
it's great exposure.
yeah, it's so that'll be a lot of fun, man. And so then I think this year it'll be a lot of adventures like that. We'll probably go do one back in America with another YouTuber. We'll sort of join forces with them.
Okay.
And during all this, we're doing this whole engine building Barra thing over in Arizona as well. So
Okay, so hang on. The Barra, but the Barra thing's not for the engine that's here.
no, this is
It's
going to be
just
one where
so that people can understand how to work that engine. Is it a popular engine over there?
it's starting to get some momentum. So realistically, you can pick a motor up here, like a non-turbo one, for under $200.
Yeah, it's cheap.
And over there, they're selling them for $2,200 US.
Wow.
So the money's huge. And, there's obviously different variants of the engine with stronger bottom ends and different cam profiles, but the blocks are all the same. So we're going to get them over. We've got a tool called a spintron. So you've seen an engine dyno, how the engine makes power and torque, and it actually spins the dyno, and that's sort of the load dictates how much power and how much load is going to be on it.
Yep.
We have a spintron where the actual, let's call it the dyno itself, is an electric motor, so it actually spins the engine. So we take all the rotating assemblies, so your pistons, your crank, rods, all that stuff comes out, and we use it actually just to check the head of the engine to see how hard we can spin different things, how much,
Before it
everything lets go. And so like on one of the engines we've done is a LS7 based engine, and it's went to 11,200 RPM, and all those all the valve trainers all been tested on the spintron because there's been numerous failures before we got to a combination that's like, hey, this thing can actually
11,200 RPM in an LS7
with push rods. Yeah, it's unbelievable. You should that was all done on the spintron, and then it jumped over to the dyno and made just shy of 1,000 horsepower, 11,230 RPM from memory.
Wow. Is there a clip of that on?
There is. It's actually been shared. It was actually, I think, I can't remember.
The sound would be phenomenal.
Unbelievable. And I think got shared 27,000 times.
Wow.
So it's been something we've been working on probably for the last 3 years.
Yep.
And yeah, just an amazing bit of gear, man. So we sort of push the boundaries, and like Ben has just got this brain that he's never satisfied with okay.
Yep.
And it's amazing. And I guess what sets us apart is that all that knowledge, like he's not selling engines or anything like that. He sells his knowledge and only through training. So that's kind of where push the boundaries on things, and then all that knowledge just gets given straight to students. And that's where the value really sits for those guys. Yep. It's not so much, hey, this is how you bolt an engine together. It's like, hey, this is how you think about problems differently.
Yep.
And that's kind of what sets it all apart. So it's a lot of fun, man.
Yep. And so what's Mel's sort of plan?
Mel is hilarious, as I always say. So Mel has just finished doing 12 months of teaching. She did a Masters of Teaching along the way there. And so she actually did 12 months. She had to do last year's full-time, and that was to get all her accreditations and everything like that set up. So now she's just going to be a casual teacher when we're back in Australia. But on the other side, she has about 400 projects going. One of them is quite funny. So it's a children's program using ventriloquy. She's a ventriloquist.
Ventriloquism, yes.
So she has a doll, and she calls it Dolly. And so she does a lot of children's songs and stories and things like that using the doll. And so that's one of the things she's doing. So she's sort of kicking that off as like a children's, like there's money in that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And
so she can film that anywhere.
100%, right? And then all her acting stuff. So she's back hard at it this year to sort of make all that. She just did a commercial for, I think it's Koala Mattresses, which was That's a pretty fun
Yep.
way to sort of finish, the school year and jump into that.
Yep.
And yeah, just sort of rolling out with all that. And then she's actually got a new product she's actually getting developed at the moment. I don't know if it's going to work. It's a weird thing, which I think maybe the industry needs. So
Okay.
she's working on that. I reckon probably June or July that thing will be coming out. So Mel's very entrepreneurial as well, but she is considerably more artistic than me.
Yep.
And talented in a bunch of ways that I'm nowhere near talented. So
Yep.
it's fun, man. She's just fingers in pies and make it happen one way or another.
Yeah. I think that's the thing that I really enjoy. You sort of get yourself involved in all these different projects, and you don't really think too far in terms of that this isn't going to work or that's not going to work. It's just let's just do it. And whatever happens, happens. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, oh well, we'll fix it.
So one of the things, right, and this is always, it's always where you see yourself, like what you see yourself able to achieve and where your limitations are. And as you get really comfy, you're like, you know what, like this house is pretty cool. And it's not like, oh no, I want to get that $5 million house down the water. It's really finding that balance as to where you're satisfied in life. And I know on one of the podcasting, it was you and Sam spoke about it, and you reached what you wanted to achieve really early in life.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, where do I go from here?
Yeah.
Like, where do I want to be satisfied that I've made it? And what does I've made it look like? And I think you struggle with that as to like, very ambitious, but where are you happy and where it's like, cool, I'm cool here. And the truth is for me, I don't think it will be anywhere. I'll always, give me $20 million tomorrow and I'm going to be doing things which, is still pushing the envelope on things, right?
That'll be the most expensive AE86 in history.
Exactly right, exactly. But, it's always... So I don't ever want to like sort of put a cap on, hey, where an idea or where a challenge can lead you.
Yeah,
it's
you won't know until you start.
You don't, and I don't think there's obviously like things where I'm like, yeah, cool, I've got this, but I think for me, probably the best thing in my life is my relationship with Mel, and that we are so flexible, and I see so many friends who have relationships, and you just know they're kind of a bit toxic, and it's always something they're managing constantly, whereas that's not something that ever comes into my mind. So I can focus on the things that I want to. And I think that's a really major thing. And I see guys struggle with that. And, there's no real answer as to how to fix it. It's just I got lucky. And
do you think that's a part of, both your and Mel's upbringing? Or is it more something that you guys have developed together as a result of your relationship?
I think like we both come from, this is like absolutely doesn't define anyone, but just as, background, I guess both of our parents are together. They've both been married, almost 40 years each. And it's a very, sound, I guess, structured sort of family thing, right?
Yeah.
But we have very close relationships with all our brothers and sisters and things like that. And I don't know if that somehow gives us that stability to be like, hey, I've got confidence in the relationship that we'll be together for the end of time.
Yeah.
And never question it. But I don't know, like I feel with...
Well, I think that does definitely give yourself some confidence, because I think if you're always focusing on the fact that this might be happening or there's something negative that you're focused on, that's energy that you're wasting that that's you can't apply to something else. Like I think there's this thing about how part of the reason why Steve Jobs used to wear the same thing every day is because
he's got energy.
There's a limited amount of decision making power that he's got in his brain. So starting your morning by going, what am I going to wear, is a shit use of energy. Yeah. So just, can that and standardize it. And then that way you can use that mental processing power for other decisions, right?
Yeah. I remember reading that and thinking, like how much, like, I don't know. What do you think about that actual article, if that's the truth as to him and everything else? Like, to me, I feel like it was more a branding decision every time he did that.
Yep.
Same with Zuckerberg with his hoodie and things like that. Like it's a branding sort of thing. Because man, I don't know, like having, and at that level of money as well, you could just be like, hey John, get me some new clothes, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. But I mean, I'm certain that the theory behind it, like the energy is you have a finite amount that you can actually use.
Yeah, I think so. I think definitely you have a limited amount of energy that you can apply to every day. So like, and let's just say, these energy levels, if you apply an arbitrary number and you say, like, let's say it's 100, it's just for simplicity's sake, right? So you've got 100 points of energy at the start of the day, and every sort of decision or thought process that you go through will subtract from that energy level, right? And so, when you look at it comparatively versus somebody else, like somebody might be 100, somebody might be 150.
Yeah.
Right? But in that pool, that even though I might have, let's say, I've got 100 and somebody else has got 150, it may only use 1 point of my energy to make that decision. It may take that other guy 20 points of energy to make that decision. So whatever the
scale or whatever you want to call it,
that you're using, I still think that the energy is finite because, I have days where, I get to the end of the day and I just want to be on autopilot. Like I think when I get to that point, I should just go to sleep.
Yeah.
Right? Because all I'm going to do is procrastinate anyway.
Exactly right. Call it early.
Just call it early. And I think, this is something that I've been thinking about is that how, the saying, tomorrow's a new day, right? But I think where people get it wrong is that in setting up for tomorrow being a new day, you still need to prepare the night before.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And I can't, I've got an issue, and I mean, I'm sure you're the same. Like, if I have a day that I feel has been very unproductive, it really weighs heavy on me.
Oh, absolutely.
And I can't stand it. Even I'll get to the end of a day at 4 o'clock, and I'm like, I haven't achieved anything. All I've done is pretty much put out fires.
I feel guilty.
Yeah, it's a level of guilt. And it's like, well, I need to do something positive here. I need to actually turn something on and be able to go, cool, I achieved that today. And that's where I think, going back to preparing the night before, I will often, before I go to bed, I've got a list of 10, 20 things I need to achieve. And they might be simple, like, hey, renew the rego, do this. But, I need to know that, hey, I got that done so tomorrow can be easier.
Yeah, exactly.
It's and I think that's something which without that is a real struggle. And I see people often, a lot of people, like good friends of mine, who will go through a depressive state. And it's typically when they're not pushing themselves or they're not sort of achieved that sense of achievement. It goes back to the whole Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that the self-actualization. I need to feel that. I need to feel that I'm contributing and I'm getting the rewards for what I'm putting in. So we spoke earlier about, we touched on suicide and things like that, which is just, it blows my mind, man. And, I had a friend last year, not a close friend, but a car friend who I'd sort of known forever. And, it was a terrible thing where he had a wife and 2 kids and just like that, gone. And it blew my mind, man.
So he had family as well.
Yeah. And I can't get my head around those things, right? I can never put my head in that headspace. And it makes me so, I don't know, whenever I hear about a suicide of a friend, I get in almost a spaced out disconnect where I don't really, I can't understand what's going through someone's head at that stage. And so look, I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know where even I've come into this, but it's certainly something which blows my mind. I don't know the answer for it, but it certainly seems like the statistics are just going up and up every year. So it's got to be an answer. I don't know what it is. Well,
I think this is one of the things that I consistently sort of struggle with. So as an example, in doing this podcast exercise, I do it for me, right? In the sense that I enjoy having conversations.
Yeah.
And, how often would it be otherwise that I get to sit down? Last time I saw you would have been maybe a year or two ago when we did a catch up.
Yeah, that's right.
But we're catching up in a group setting.
Yeah.
And for us to be able to sit down here and have a real conversation and where we're locked in on each other and, we're talking about, all the different things. I think I probably learnt more about you in the last hour and a bit.
Yeah, that's right.
Than I've learnt in the how many years that I've known you.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just through the one conversation.
Just like a long dating app for men.
No, it's not limited to men. I will eventually find some females who would love to be a part of the podcast.
It's just when you look that door, it's like, oh God, I'm in.
This is your Harvey Weinstein. No,
yeah.
Anyway. But yeah, it's, what I always sort of struggle with is that, there's a part of me that so I guess, I have a friend who said to me, well, you're putting the effort into making the podcast anyway, you might as well promote it, right? And I feel like there's a trap there for me because I don't want to get caught up on trying to promote this thing and chasing likes and that kind of thing, because I have a very sort of, I would say that I have an addictive personality, and I've just channeled my addictions to things like, martial arts, cars, work, family. I channel them to those sorts of things as opposed to, other things, right? So, I used to play games and I'd be obsessed, right? My mate who committed suicide last year, when we were in high school, we would play StarCraft, typical Asians, play StarCraft from like 11 in the morning in the school holidays till probably 2 or 3 in the morning the next day. And then we'd go to sleep. And like, this is back when the internet, like we weren't on the internet back then, it was in high school, and we were just playing together, so it was via the modem.
Yeah.
So, I'd wake up the next morning in the school holidays, and I'd always wake up before him because naturally I'm always an early riser, right? So I'd wake up, say, 8 o'clock or something because, we slept so late. And I would remember, the first 2 hours of my morning, I would eat breakfast and, do whatever else while I'm waiting for 10 o'clock to roll around so I could call him so we could go and play again.
Yeah.
So I would basically call Age at 10 o'clock the next morning, wake him up.
Man.
and I'd be like, hey man, and he'd be like, hey man, and then like we just sort of fill in the conversation and just talk about random shit. And he would have breakfast, he would go to the bathroom, like all on the phone, right? We'd just be talking, 100%. Right? And then like 10:30 or 11 would roll around, and it would be like, okay, yeah, we'll dial in now, and we connect, and then we just play to the point where we'd play until dinner rolled around. And then it would be like, oh, my parents are calling me for dinner. And he goes, oh, yeah, okay, I can have dinner too. So we'd pause the game, right? Computer's still connected, modem's still connected. Nobody could use the phone line. We'd pause the game. We'd go and have dinner. And then whenever one of us would finish, we'd just go back to the computer and wait.
No way.
No, I shit you not. And we just message just to see if the other person's there. And then within 5 or 10 minutes,
back in it.
We're playing again,
man.
Right? And then we just like that. That's what we used to do, right? That's how addicted I was to how my personality can go into those sorts of addictions. But then, that's the thing that I always struggle with is that like in terms of the promotional side and trying to, because I always like to think that I'm going to apply the same energy that I do to everything that I do. But then sometimes I feel like, if I push myself too hard in this direction, then I know that it's not going to make me any happier. Like I'm actually happy to just have the conversations and do the little things that I do without having to push too hard on the promotional side. And that's probably where, if I was looking to do this as a business, I would go and hire somebody to go and do that for me so that I didn't need to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
And the second, especially with all this stuff, like we, as, Adventures of Ben Squared, we are very particular about not looking at metrics. And if we do it, it's like every 3 months we don't tell the other person because we don't want another metric to chase.
Yep.
And I totally understand, you can monetize everything like that, but it's, it's something I don't need. I have other things that I'm pursuing that actually have considerable more value. This is more like a fun thing that we do to sort of, in a way, you semi-relax. It's a good way just to listen and take some time out. So I really enjoy it, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, man, we've almost done 2 hours.
Wow, man, we are smashing it out. Johnny, what's your, if I said, if you were, writing on a resume and you had a one-liner, what would you say your skill set would be? The best, your best traits in business?
In business or in general?
I'd probably say it's, you're going for a job interview, so it can be in general or business, but they typically will roughly align.
I would say, to try and summarize it in a line, I guess the point that I try and convey is my ability to take learnings from one environment and apply them to a new environment. I think, I always look at things, and so even though, I could say that I spent a lot of my time, playing games as a kid or whatever, I don't look at that and say that was lost time. There was other things I could have done with that, but I think, doing some of those things sometimes, those skills that you develop playing those games, because we're playing StarCraft, you learn about economy,
yeah,
learn about,
sure.
How to counter different units and things like that. Those sorts of things you can apply to other aspects of your life. So, I guess the common one that I would always say is, and I tell this to the apprentices at my workplace, that the skills that you learn in working on a car, you can apply those same logical steps to try and understanding, what is the problem and what are you trying to fix?
Yeah.
And apply that to family, relationships, friendships, to life, right? So that's where I think, my sort of main skill set is that I do a lot of different things, But what I always like to look at is what are the lessons that you can pull out of that particular thing that you're doing and apply them to another thing that you want to be doing or you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's probably, apart from like, I guess the business experience and that side of things, I think that's probably my key sort of trait is that I like to break down things and understand the deeper underlying concept behind them so that I can then apply them out of context and in different situations.
Man, I think that's a brilliant answer, and I would give you the job for it. But yeah, no, that's what I always think. Like, you're one of those guys that, like, if there's a job there and it's like, oh, I need to get it done, just get Johnny. I feel that like you just get Johnny. There's no more instructions that are needed. It'll just get done. Yeah. You'll see the background, you'll understand it, you'll push it, and you'll make sure success is there.
So the big thing for me is that I always try and make sure that any sort of thing that I do. And so I guess in my capacity as looking after this, BMW dealership, I always try and look at, is there a role in this business that I can't do? Because if there is, then I need to invest the time to actually understand that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because then you can approach it from a different angle because, you're in those shoes. And so likewise, anything that I'm not afraid to going back to being a beginner, and in fact, funnily enough, I was thinking about, when I think back on things that we used to do, we used to wrestle at lunchtime.
Oh my God, that was hilarious.
So when we were working at Toyota, we had a gym there, and we'd at lunchtimes, when we were in the office, we'd catch up.
Man, that's so funny. I forgot that.
And we used to wrestle in the gym room. So and like I trained kung fu for 21 odd years, and in the last year or so, I've taken a step back from that to learn new things. So I'm on a Brazilian jiu-jitsu journey as well.
Wow.
And going through that and sort of I guess being open-minded and developing other skills, right? Because I guess the learnings that I've got in kung fu, some of those do relate to what we do in jiu-jitsu. It's just a different application because now you're on the ground. Right. And so, for me, I guess as a martial artist, like that's one of the important things for me is about translation of skills. So that's, I guess, where that mindset for me comes from. But I guess, flipping the question back on you, what would you say if what's your...
Man, I should have thought the question asked you so you wouldn't drop it back on me. What's mine? Look, I will, if you're trying to get in somewhere, I can secure the relationship and I can make sure that if your product's good, and it actually does what you say it will, I'll make sure it's successful.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm also one, I will get it done. Whatever the challenge is, just leave it with me. Give me enough information so I know what you're trying to achieve, and I'll look after the rest.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you the way that, and I guess I'm speaking from, our time at Toyota, the way you and I operate would be like, I would say that, I do things a very sort of technical way. And you do things more like from a very people-oriented way. Not to say that I don't do things people-oriented either, but I think, like you take the technical stuff from your peers, as in like, the information that's provided to you.
Yeah.
And then you leverage very
Yeah.
heavily on the relationship, whereas I would leverage heavily on the technical aspect to build the relationship.
Yeah, yes. I reckon that is that's how I remember all our Toyota.
Yeah.
You and Brad were there getting the numbers, and I was like, all right. Okay. All right. Now I know what I need to do. Thanks, boys. I hate Excel, by the way. I hate it. I remember, I think it was Andrew Sava sent me off to an Excel course.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. And, man, I came back and I was like, I forget how to, I hate it, man. It just doesn't work for me,
Yeah.
But the good news is people out there, it works for them, so I can just get the outcome and run with that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Man. But well, Johnny, this has been great.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on.
No, very, very great. I'm excited to see more of these, man.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll have to follow your journey. So,
yeah. Do that.
Where can people find you?
All right. So podcast is The Adventures of Ben Squared. And look, if you want to just find me, just find Ben Horwood on Facebook or Instagram, whatever. There's always going to be something weird going on.
Yep. All right. Cool. So thank you for everyone for listening, and that's it.
See you guys. Thank you.